who previously dated her is the one that. So first of all, straight clothing designer guy. He said he called off the relationship with her after he found her writing on the Discord platform that she was reading Mein Kampf. Okay.
He didn't have a clue when she took him to Hitler Burger on their first date?
Right, exactly.
Stephanie Miller, weekday mornings, 8 to 11 on WCPT 820.
This is an important announcement for anyone who wants health insurance, even if you missed the deadline. Right now, you can get the health insurance you and your family need from top insurance providers, even if you have pre-existing conditions or no insurance at all. The Plus Benefits Health Insurance toll-free number has been extended to help anyone who wants health insurance coverage now, or if you need a better plan or a lower price. Call Plus Benefits Health Insurance now at 800-530-2423. The call is 100% free and the help is real. Call 800-530-2423. That's 800-530-2423.
AP News. Good morning, I'm Ed Donahue. There is still a lot of work to do way out in the Atlantic. The submersible, the Titan, imploded near the wreck of the Titanic, killing all 5 people on board. Next is to determine why. Titanic expert Paul-Henri
Hi, Miss Jackson.
Hi, how are you?
and Matthew Tulloch.
Doing well. About to call up the Reverend right now.
Okay.
Very different way of seeing history, and because it's so far away and so remote and so hostile environment, I think there's a certain allure to it that is hard to describe.
Also killed Stockton Rush, the CEO of Ocean Gate Expeditions, the company that owned and operated the submersible. 2 members of a prominent Pakistani family and British adventurer Hamish Harding. There is some infighting in Russian President Vladimir Putin's government.
After spending more than 2 decades building a rigidly controlled political system, Putin is silently watching increasingly raucous infighting that is emerging among top members of his entourage amid the war in Ukraine. While it doesn't seem to pose any immediate threat to Putin's power itself, some analysts say his failure to quash the squabbles between Yevgeny Prigozhin, the maverick head of the Wagner private military contractor, and the military brass heralds potential shifts in Russia's political scene and sets the stage for more internal battles. It has pushed Prigozhin to the forefront of Russia's political scene. I'm Charles Tiladesma.
The race to reopen a stretch of Interstate 95 in Philadelphia is getting a boost from a truck-mounted jet dryer used at Pocono Raceway. The road is set to reopen today. A fire 2 weeks ago underneath part of the elevated road caused it to collapse. House Republicans released testimony from 2 IRS whistleblowers who alleged the Justice Department interfered with their investigation.
All right, we have Reverend Thurston on the line.
Okay.
I'm going up to Facebook to check levels there.
Okay, thank you.
This is AP News.
Pastor Thurston?
The San Antonio Spurs picked up a big prize in the NBA draft.
Pastor
San
Thurston?
Antonio Spurs picked Victor Wembanyama with
You
the
can't
first
hear
pick
me.
in the 2023 NBA draft.
I can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me?
Considered a generational talent.
Yep, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. How you doing, honey? Thank you for coming last night. I hope you had a good time.
Spurs fans to know that for
I really did. Thoroughly enjoyed myself.
You left early.
To make this franchise.
Okay.
Brandon Miller went
toward
second
the
to
end
the
of the
Charlotte
Urban
Hornets,
Knights
Scoot Henderson third to the Portland Trailblazers,
Okay.
the Houston Rockets to
Yeah, I'd
Amon
kinda forgotten
Thompson,
that
fourth,
was-
twin brother Asar Thompson went
All of
fifth
that
to the
whole
Detroit
great
Pistons.
easy
Molly
Western
Guy
Chicago
Senior.
sound.
The
That
NHL
was-
says teams
Mr.
won't
Lewis,
have
too.
players wear themed jerseys during pregame warm-up.
Everyone sounds good on Facebook, and we have a little more than 5 minutes.
Okay,
Wear
perfect.
pride
Thank
jerseys.
you.
Teams will
Left the mark.
Oh,
other
man.
team nights. Jerseys will be auctioned off, but players won't wear
And
them.
I hope that his sons will be, excuse me, I hope that Bobby and Frank will be pursuing
and streaming
their
worldwide
music.
to
They I mean, they are really, really
We
talented.
are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts
Really,
matter.
really talented. All of them, I mean, they're all very, very bright, very talented kids. Woo. Excuse me. We are all grown now. Wow. You know, but it's a funny thing. You kind of get locked in to where you know, where you people.
Where
It's
you,
like,
yep.
yeah, it's like, wait a minute. Seems like yesterday we were waving good night. You know, just
By Monday, a
wow.
chance for rain showers, cloudy skies, a high of
Yeah.
74.
Time marches forward.
do you understand what I'm trying to say here?
Currently, it's 70.
Oh boy.
Dr. Hande
I mean, how your parents
She
doing?
is a neuroscientist, but also an artist.
My dad's on vacation this week
No,
in Aruba.
come on now. Here you go. One day you will
And my
earn
mother's on
that.
vacation from him.
Wait a minute. And one day you will earn that. Please, that's how they make it. What are you talking about?
Yes, ma'am.
I was like, wait a minute, he's coming back when? Now?
Hey, looking for a winning team on the winning station? You sign
Oh
here
my
on
gosh.
WCPT at 20 a.m. Join the market.
Boy, you can holler, but you know they've made it up to they've made it now.
And yours truly.
Yeah.
And I gotta
Yes,
respect
ma'am.
that.
For the sports cubicle,
Yeah.
where the inmates run the asylum and the
Sure.
I gotta respect
they
that.
yell at us on Monday morning.
Yeah.
We're working over.
Kisses parents are together 60 years.
Were they really?
We're here.
Well, that's my
Yeah.
parents. My parents
Sunday nights at 9
61.
p.m.
Okay.
The David Pac-Man Show.
The right
And
is
you know, and
you
that's
can't find any empirical
you
data
know, you
that the right
can't
is winning.
there's nothing
ask
you can do
about
with
abortion.
that. You know, I
Support
think,
for
you know,
abortion
once
No.
you well, you know, it's like my mother said to me
situations
about
higher
someone.
than ever during the Roe v. Wade era.
She was I was
Support for
asking
gay
her about,
marriage,
you know,
higher than ever. So
a gentleman
that's
who
why
I
the
was,
right
you
is
know,
trying to steal elections,
involved with for
and
some
it is in the
time.
data.
The David
But you know, he and I
Mhm.
broke it up, and just a lot of things happened. And he said, well, you know, he ended up having a child in between all of that. And my mother said, okay, well.
Saturdays at 1 p.m.
I said, well, what do you do? She said, what do you mean, what do you
Words are
do?
the real battlegrounds where America's future
I
is
said,
going
well,
to be
baby,
decided.
she said, oh, no, no, no,
Ron
no. She said, honey,
DeSantis tells us that Florida is
did
free,
he marry her?
yet he
No.
uses the
Okay,
power of
well,
government
that's
to
not your
ban
problem then.
laws, to undermine private
Your
businesses.
problem is
and
with that first person who gets him down the
official
aisle.
thought throughout the state.
Picture with
You better pray she's gone.
Saturdays at 1 p.m.
This is a WCPT.
You know,
Rights
because,
Snapshot.
you know,
the
it's-
National
it's a-
Afro-American League, or the
it's-
NAAL, was formed in 1887 at Timothy
Honey,
Thomas Worth. Fortune sought to create
this-
one
the
of the first
mysteries
all-black
of love.
civil rights groups in the nation.
You
Being
know?
born into slavery and seeing the rise of
Yeah.
It really is
he
God's business.
felt as he needed to fight these
And
injustices by giving
you
a
enter in
voice to
between
those
people's
without.
situation
He
at your
proposed the
peril.
formation of this group in his editorials for the New York Age. He
Sure.
founded the
You
group with
do.
the goal of combating suppression of
Yeah.
voting rights
You don't know,
and
you don't
inequalities in
know
black and white school
how
funding,
hearts
among
link.
other inequalities.
That's why you can't look at
For
people and
instance,
say, oh, I
many
think
groups
they'll
went about
work. You have
tackling
no
lynching
idea.
and Jim Crow laws, while other groups instead
That's right.
You have
political
no
opinion
idea.
and gaining political
Just
power.
do
The first
yourself a
national
favor
conference
and
took
shut
place in
up.
Chicago in 1890, where they ratified the Constitution
I'm with you.
Oh, yeah.
for the rights of
Just
African
don't.
Americans across the nation. After years of financial hardships, the NAAL split up in 1892.
Have you been to
This
soccer
wasn't the
here?
end of the fight by any means, though, as they
I've never been to a soccer game.
future groups like the NAACP to come and
Well,
change
it's,
the world.
it's rowdy.
Please
For
take
sure.
a look at our civil rights. The fight
Yes.
is never over.
I was in Morocco when they were in the World Cup, and it was, I mean, the energy.
Independent retirement and financial.
Oh, that must be fabulous.
Yeah. Oh, it was great.
Teaching financial literacy.
I was really pulling, well, we all
Prepare
were. I
them
think
for a
everybody
great
was pulling
future
for
and
that.
a dignified retirement.
Yeah.
Investments, pensions, 401ks, they're all pretty complicated.
Oh,
we make
oh,
sure
yeah.
that you understand it.
Whoa, come
Give
on.
us a
I
call,
know y'all can do it. I know you can do it.
708-444-1090.
But you know, the fact that they got that
We're
far
Megan Financial.
is a big,
and we're
big
your
deal.
advisors in a happier retirement.
It's a big deal.
Visit us
Big,
at
big deal.
MEGENT.com.
Securities and advisory services offered through Cetera Advisors LLC, member of FINRA SIPC, a broker dealer.
But you know, but everything is changing. You know, and I think that's why, you know, you have to, you know, educate and talk to people about what you're seeing.
However, we make no representation as to its completeness. Keep in mind that
Yes, ma'am.
Because we need to understand what's happening in the world, because there's a big reset.
Yeah.
And people need to understand that, you know, when you go to other parts of the world, they are, thank you so much.
6 p.m. Representative Jesus Chuy Garcia.
I mean,
will
they've
hold
got
an in-person
infrastructure.
town
I
hall in
mean,
the village of Franklin Park
America's
Community
infrastructure
Center,
is 100 years
9451
old.
West Belmont Avenue.
It's old, yes.
It's old
And falling apart.
and falling
Yeah,
apart. I
Congressman
mean,
Raja Krishnamurthy of the
we're
8th
spending
District
all
of
this money on
Illinois
things
will hold
that,
a
you know,
town
it's
hall
like,
event
no,
at
we
St.
can't
Charles
afford
East
that.
High School, 1020 Dunham Road in St.
Oof.
Charles. Wednesday,
Can't.
July 12th at 7
Can't
p.m.
do
the
it.
Highland Park Library will hold a Meet the Author event with
And everybody
best-selling
knows
and
it.
award-winning author Jonathan Ike, whose new biography, King, A Life,
Everybody
is the
knows
first
it.
major biography of Martin Luther King in 40 years. Copies of the book will be for sale, and the event will
Oh,
conclude
boy.
with a book signing. If you'd like to list your event or sponsor WCPT's progressive calendar, send an email to calendar@wcpt820.com.
Should
Stand by.
of talk. WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Thank you. Let's have a great show. Okay.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am
Hey everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. Got some feedback. Take care of that. It's a joy to be with you today on June 23rd, Friday. Hazy day, but a beautiful day here in Chicago. It's going to be mostly sunny. 78 degrees will be the high, maybe about 80 degrees. And Minneapolis, St. Paul, 90 degrees, scattered thunderstorms. Good morning, everybody. I'm Santita Jackson, coming to you from WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Let's talk about what happened with the Titan that went looking for the Titanic. What happened? You know, we talked about this yesterday, but I think that now, of course, yesterday when we spoke of this, we had no idea. Certainly we were hoping, keeping hope alive, that all 5 souls would be found alive. And it turns out that on Sunday, not even 2 hours into the submersion of the submersible, our Navy knew something had gone terribly wrong, because they had heard the sounds of an explosion or of an implosion. So now we need to talk about that. Corporate responsibility, what happened here, where our government went and where they enter. Because whistleblowers had tried to go to our government to say, hey, the construction of this machine, of this submersible, is not as safe as other submersibles. Something is not happening here. They're not using steel. They're using another metal. And even the slightest crack, fissure in that metal would not just compromise the device, but it would make it implode. And that's what we're seeing happen. We don't have all the information yet, but we need to talk about that today. Need to talk about that because you know what? We all are at risk of a lot of things. Think about it. Do you read the fine print on your aspirin, on your medicine, on? They're advertising all of these medicines on television. They don't tell you about the fine print, but I tell you what, built into all of these pharmaceutical companies are funds for you that will take care of a lawsuit. Even though you can't sue for vaccines, you can sue for many other things. So we got to talk about that today. And I want you to call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. We're going to be talking about sexually transmitted diseases with Dr. Shanita Knighton. How does that impact us? You know, and it's happening to older women. But with younger women, it can make you sterile. With younger men, it can make you sterile. Got to talk about that and how we can prevent all of that. So let's go to some of these headlines. The Titanic-bound submersible that went missing on Sunday with 5 people on board suffered a, quote, catastrophic implosion, close quote, killing everyone inside, according to the U.S. Coast Rear Admiral John Mauger. A remotely operated vehicle found identifiable pieces of the vessel known as Titan in a debris field about 1,600 feet away from the bow of the shipwreck, the Titanic. The Titan began its descent on Sunday to explore the wreckage of the Titanic, located about 13,000 feet below sea level in the North Atlantic Ocean. There does not appear to be a connection between the banging noises picked up by sonar buoys earlier this week, you know, that we were hearing every 30 minutes, and we were hoping that they are banging on in this submersible trying to be found. No, that is not what happened, everybody. God bless them. But we're going to be talking about that and where responsibility lies. The House of Representatives on Thursday voted to send a resolution offered by Republican Representative Lauren Boebert, and she and Marjorie Taylor Greene have been fighting. They've had expletives that they could not utter on television. Representative Boebert of Colorado effectively pausing a move to bring a motion to the floor that would, quote, have forced members to vote on whether to impeach President Joe Biden. The rule was passed along party lines. Her resolution had divided House Republicans, with many members expressing frustration with the conservative Congresswoman's push to force a long-shot vote on a politically contentious issue. Speaker Kevin McCarthy urged his GOP conference to vote against the resolution during a closed-door meeting on Wednesday, arguing that Republicans should let committee investigations play out and warning that jumping the impeachment can now threaten their slim majority. Yet another Republican is joining the 2024 race for the White House, former Texas Representative Will Hurd, who is a former CIA officer, by the way, on Thursday launched a presidential campaign, joining a crowded field looking to challenge the current frontrunner, former President Donald Trump, who leads by a lot. Hurd has been outspoken in his criticism of Trump following his indictment and arrest on federal charges over his alleged mishandling of classified documents, and was a rare Republican critic of former President Trump during his time in Congress from 2015 to 2021. And those are some of the headlines, everybody. And we are going to have a great sports weekend. Are you getting ready for NASCAR? That's going to be the first weekend in July. How are you going to get around the city? Let me know. 773-763-9278. In Major League Baseball, the Twins will be playing the Tigers. The Red Sox will be facing off against the White Sox here in Chicago. And tomorrow, the Cubs will be facing the Cardinals. In the WNBA, the Mystics 80, the Sky 59. Ooh, the Sun 89, the Lynx 68. Both of our teams had a tough time last night, but they can come back. In soccer tomorrow, the Sporting KC will be facing off against the Chicago Fire, and the Real Salt Lake will be facing off against Minnesota. We got to get some good news from Pastor Stephen Thurston. I asked him back today because the blessing of Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams was given to me by Reverend Thurston. I said, I want to find someone. I didn't say whether it was a woman or a man. I just need to find someone. He said, oh, I've got someone for you. You're going to love her. You're going to love her as a person, but you're going to love her spirit, but you're going to also love her interpretation of the text. And we all love her so much. And so I reached out to her yesterday, as I do, to find out, are you going to be able to be with us? And she couldn't be with us last week, but it turns out her father passed yesterday. So everybody, I want you to reach out to her on Facebook and let her know that you love her. This is a really, really tough time for them, Pastor Stephen Thurston. I mean, as you shared with me, her parents were married 60 years like mine. My parents have been married 62. They've been together 61 years. They've been together 62. And wow, that's a lot. And I told you I would give her a call today. I called her when we were at the concert last night. And I want to thank all of you for your support. I'm so glad that you honored the iconic Ramsey Lewis. We had a great, great time last night. But my heart was broken because, I thought about my sister and just how she must be feeling. And you've spoken with her, Pastor Thurston.
Yes, I've spoken with her, and she's in good spirits, considering the context of the circumstances. And yes, we're praying for her. And it can be difficult, Santita, because the work that we do as pastors, caring for people, it can be difficult to shift out of pastor mode into child mode. And so making that emotional adjustment to really realize where you are in that moment. This is your dad that's made this transition, the one who's trained you and loves you and did all of that amazing stuff for you. And so we pray for her emotions as she will at some point make that shift out of pastor mode into daughter mode. And I know that grace is going to cover her and care for her. But we're lifting her. And with what happened, is happening in the life of Pastor Tish, that kind of promoted me and prompted me to kind of shift what I wanted to do today, to help us in the space of navigating the path of grief. Losing a loved one is an experience that touches us deeply, shaking the very foundations of our lives. The journey of grief, it can be overwhelming and lonely at times, leaving us with a mix of emotions and a longing for some solace. And while each person's grief may be unique, there are some steps that we all can take to navigate this painful process and find healing along the way. And so today's good word is really designed to help us to explore a few practical strategies and compassionate insights that will help us on our path of grief and provide some support during these difficult times that we face. And maybe you're saying, Stephen, I'm not grieving anyone right now. You never know what the rest of this day may hold. So number one, what I want you to do is to allow yourself to feel. Grief is a natural response to loss, and it is essential to honor your emotions. Give yourself permission to feel the pain, the sadness, the anger, or the confusion that might arise. And avoid suppressing your feelings, as this can hinder your healing process. Instead, I want you to create a safe space where you can express your emotions, whether through talking to trusted friends or family, joining a support group, seeking professional counseling. Just do something where you can have the space to embrace what you're actually feeling. Number 2, embrace some self-care. It's during times of grief that taking care of yourself is crucial and critical. From nourishing your body with healthy food to engaging in exercise, prioritizing restful sleep, the goal is to be gentle with yourself and allow time for relaxation and self-reflection. Engaging in activities that bring you joy or solace, such as reading, listening to music, spending time in nature, really, they can provide some much-needed respite from the intensity of your grief. Number 3, seek support. Grieving doesn't mean you have to go through this thing alone. I want you to reach out to trusted friends, family, support groups, someone who can offer understanding or just a listening ear. Sharing your story and the memories of your loved one, oh man, it can provide so much comfort and validation. And if needed, always consider seeking professional help from a therapist or a grief counselor who specializes in guiding individuals through their grieving process. Number 4, establish some rituals and honoring memories. Creating rituals or traditions to honor your loved one's memory, that can be a meaningful way to cope with your grief. This could involve lighting a candle, setting up a memorial space, or writing letters to your loved ones. Engaging in acts of remembrance really can provide solace and help keep the memory of them alive in your heart. Number 5, practice self-compassion. Grief is a very complex and non-linear journey. Let me say that again. It's a complex and non-linear journey, and it is vital to be kind and patient with yourself. So I want you to avoid comparing your grieving process to other people's grieving process that you've witnessed and begin setting some unrealistic expectations. Don't do that. Understand that healing takes time and there is no right way to grieve. That means your grief is going to be unique in how you experience it and express it. Embrace some self-compassion, allowing yourself to feel whatever arises, and do that without judgment. Number 6, almost there, find meaning and purpose. In the midst of grief, seeking meaning and purpose can bring a sense of hope and healing. Explore some activities or causes that were important to your loved one and consider how you can continue their legacy. Engaging in acts of service or joining support organizations might provide a sense of connection and contribute to your healing process. And then finally, number 7, adjust your expectations and allow time. Understand that grief is a process that takes time, and there is no set time for your healing. Don't allow people to push you or pull you through this process. Be patient with yourself and recognize that healing and growth occur gradually. Adjust your expectations. Allow yourself the space and the time needed to grieve and find meaning in your own way. Remember now, grief, it's a unique and a personal journey, and it's important to give yourself permission to experience it in your own way at your own pace. Seek support. Take care of yourself. Find meaning in things that can contribute to your health and your growth through this grieving process. And the good news is that you're not alone in this process. There are people that love you, that care for you, that will support you, that will lend a listening ear or a shoulder to lean on, a space to cry on, a space to cuss, holler, fuss, whatever you need to do. You're not in this by yourself. There are people that want to give you hope and give you the grace to experience your grief in a healthy way as you move through this chapter of life. It's our prayer that this helped you, that this encouraged you, and that if you're not in the grief space, that you'll reflect upon what was shared today when that moment comes in your life to navigate you through that chapter of life.
I needed that today. I was going to ask you about navigating grief. And I have a question for you. Because like you said, you might not be grieving right now, but blink. Your phone call, a text message away from your whole life changing, and you're flooded with memories. When we were with the Lewis's family yesterday, I grew up with his 7 kids. We were next door neighbors, and we were laughing about how we would wave goodnight to each other. And I was laughing about the lineup. I was like, yeah, Kelly, Bobby, and Frayne, and then Dawn's room, and then Denise had her room, and then Kevin and Ramsey had a room, and then, we all sometimes gather in your parents' bedroom and watch TV or go down to the den and da-da-da-da. And all these memories come flooding back. And, and I just thought about their mother who made her transition about 10 years ago or so. And you know what? And time has given me the space not to cry about her. Now I can smile, about the luau she had where she put my mother said, Jerry, I have a whole new respect for you. I said, what do you mean, girl? She said, a whole pig you're roasting? She said, ribs? Okay, pork chops, but the whole pig? Oh, that she did. And it was a big Hawaiian luau, and we all got Hawaiian outfits. So it was great. But my question for you, when Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams texted me, can't be with you tomorrow. My father passed this morning. You almost freeze because you don't know what to say.
Yes.
What do you say? Because different people.
That is a great question.
You react differently, and you can be one person out of grief, and something else comes out of you in grief, and you don't want to cross a line. What do you say?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you so much for raising that. Something that we often need to say is nothing, because oftentimes people think that they're helping and they're hurting. So again, sometimes people just need a place to emote, to share. They just need to listen. Yeah, they need nothing else from you but the present of your presence. But I'll give you some more specific things that you can say. Here are 3 options outside of silence. Number 1, I can't imagine how you feel, but I'm here for you. Number 2, I wish I had the right words. Please know I care. Number 3, we all need support at times like this. I'm here for you. Can I tell you what not to say as well, Santita?
Please.
What not to say. I understand how you feel. No, you don't. I get it. Your dad passed, your mom passed, but your relationship with your parents, it may not be the same type of relationship that person had with their parents. So you really don't know how they feel. Don't say that. Second thing not to say, statements that begin with at least. Don't do that. Number 3, you'll get over it. Time heals all wounds. Don't say that. It was just God's will. God doesn't make any mistakes. That's not what a person wants to hear in that moment. And then finally, just keep busy so that you don't have to think about it. Those are some things that you don't want to say. They don't help at all. And again, if you can't remember the things that I shared with you today of what to say, don't say anything. Just let people know that your presence is available for them when and if they need it.
Lorraine Dunkley Hayes said her father passed June 15th, 1998. And each year, if it falls around Father's Day it falls around Father's Day weekend. That's right. And she feels for her. I mean, because, and it really does, in these last 30 seconds, where you were in your relationship with your parents or with the person who's made their transition really impacts how you feel. That's why, every conversation treated as sacred, because you don't know. There's an old song in the Black church. This may be the last time. I don't know.
That's right.
Last 30 seconds belong to you. What do you want us to know, Pastor Thurston?
You're unique, so your journey is going to be unique as you deal with grief. And what's right for you may not be right for someone else. So let's avoid judging people and how they grieve. Acceptance of the matter also doesn't mean forgetting, neither does it mean replacing. It's better to have painful memories than to have nothing at all. So cherish the memories that you have. And again, acceptance does not mean you no longer hold people responsible for maybe some things that happened while they were alive. We process our grief and we process our pain. And it's something that you never get over, especially when it's a parent. You just learn to live with it. To prepare yourself for that. If your parents haven't transitioned yet, you'll never get over that. You just learn to adjust and adapt as you move forward in life.
Pastor Stephen Thurston, will you be on Facebook this afternoon?
I will be on Facebook this afternoon. I'm looking so forward to today.
At 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. What will you be talking about?
Yep, 3 p.m. Central Standard Time, my Facebook page, that's Stephen with the PH. I'm going to be talking about pivoting from people pleasing. Going to help us to break some of this codependency some of us are dealing with.
Oh, okay. All right now. Pivoting from people pleasing. Ooh. I know that's stepping. Well, no, that is killing someone softly with the song. Okay. You know, I mean, come on now. That's it. Please, Stephen Thurston, Stephen with a PH. Please check him out at 3 p.m. on Facebook Live. Today, you don't want to miss it. I learned so much. Love it, and love you. Let's talk about STDs. That's right, STDs. How they impact the young, how they impact middle-aged people or people who are aging. Can't wait to talk about that. Here with Dr. Shanina Knighton on the Santita Jackson Show. Back in just a minute. Thank you, Pastor Thurston. Oh, wow. This is a lot.
We have Chappelle Wells and Dr. Knighton ready to go.
Okay, great. Chappelle, how you doing? Welcome home. Is she there?
I had to take you off your Santita.
Okay, thank you. I had to make sure. That you were going to be there. I was like, okay, what's going on? Oh boy, but I
said I had you on mute.
Okay, then look, I am not mad at you. I was just trying to make sure that I didn't miss something. Ooh. Who, in your opinion, makes what grocery store makes the best rotisserie chicken?
I actually like Sam's Club and Costco.
Really? What are they seasoned?
Yes, Sam's Club probably has the best.
Okay, they made the top 3 in this ranking, and Costco was right behind that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's true. That rotisserie.
Okay. All right. Well, we've got Dr. Shanina Knighton here with us today.
Good morning, Dr. Knighton. Good morning, Chappelle. How are you? I'm great. Good.
Okay.
Look, I'm doing. Look, these kids on summer break. Honey, I have 7 of them. I have 7. I can't imagine. Look, they eat so much. You know, and the bad about it is it come around every year, but you forget. They are eating me out of house and home. I put them on a noodles and hot dog diet for the warm up
2 minutes.
because they just went through everything. It's crazy.
Noodles.
They're like, "You not cooking?" No, I'm not cooking. Y'all eating noodles and hot dog cereal. Knock yourself out. And it's bad because all of mine started learning how to cook at 5. So you could imagine during the pandemic, they was making gourmet lunches. And I'm like, that's dinner food. And they just sitting up there all like, no, Mom, we just had it for lunch because we had time to prep it. I'm like, are you serious?
What?
So, yeah. Oh, yeah, no, they cook. When I tell you like I'm not even playing. My daughter just be making shrimp burgers from scratch. And all kinds of stuff, they cook.
Yes, my brothers cook, each one of them, and my sister cooks. Jackie can cook, and she looks like she doesn't eat anything.
Back in 30.
She can really cook. She can really cook. I can cook what I can cook. How about that? But you know, I love watching the Food Network. I love watching people cook. And I love hearing you tell me about cooking. Love that.
Stand by.
Carlos says that Costco has the best. All right, Carlos. Hey, y'all tell me, who has the best?
We can change the world. Change the world. Change the world. We can change the world. We can change the world. Change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love. It's not too late. Gotta save the children. We can't wait. Let's change the world. I am dreaming.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. Well, it is time to talk with Dr. Shanita Knight. We've got some questions about STDs. Yeah, sexually transmitted diseases, how they impact young people, how they impact men, women, middle-aged people, our elders. You know, people live, and this is part of living. And so we want to talk about that and what we can do to mitigate risk. But before we do, welcome back from Mexico, Chapearl Wells. Mrs. Wells, how you doing?
Hey, Santita, and thank you so much. And we are back in business. So give us a call at 708-526-4546, 708-526-4546. At Celebrations by Us, we're taking orders for the holidays. So give us a call. We're doing right now orders for grilled chicken, jerk chicken, as well as also ribs, your spaghetti, your mac and cheese, your baked beans, whatever it is that you need for the 4th of July, call us, 708-526-4546, 708-526-4546. We look forward to serving you. Thank you so much, Santita.
Well, let me ask you this very quickly. You know, we've got NASCAR coming the 4th of July weekend at the beginning of it. Are you going to be doing anything special for that?
You know, this NASCAR is like crazy. So I'm trying to, take orders for people who need it, and we're just open and available. So we're not doing anything specifically for NASCAR, but we are available. Right now, we're not fully booked. So, hey, give us a call, 708-526-4546. And we'll be happy to help you and get your vittles, as you like to say, on your table.
Well, because the closer we get to it, it's going to become a big thing because they're locking different parts of downtown down, and you're going to see that throughout the city because it's a huge event. We've never had anything like this in Chicago before, and I would think that it's going to be a wonderful experience, and I think you need to get your vittles. I believe in that. I got to get my greens from you. I love them. Oh, they're a mix. I love them. Love you, Chapearl Wells. Glad you and your family are back here. We've got Dr. Shanita Knight, an infection preventionist, registered nurse, college lecturer. She does so much. I said, Dr. Knighton, what would you like to talk about? You said STDs. Whew, why?
So yes, Santita, for one, it's interesting because I just want to bring up to the audience that you hear that used interchangeably with the term sexually transmitted infection. And so sexually transmitted infections and sexually transmitted diseases, you may hear intermittently. The term diseases came around first, but disease in itself just sounds like very, very harsh. And especially because somebody can actually at some point get rid of it. So it's been changed to sexually transmitted infection.
Wow.
We to talk about that is because it's really having a heavy impact. 50% of new cases that occur, they occur amongst the age group between 15 and 24 years old. And it sounds crazy to some because they may say, well, what is the big deal with all of these medicines that exist and everything that's going on, essentially what's happening? Why is it that it's occurring? Before, people would say that it was based off of, let's say the promiscuity. It might have been based off of, let's say, same-sex relationships being at higher risk. And so there's so many different, I'm not going to say myths, but ways in which people think about sexually transmitted diseases or infections in terms of having habits. But the reason I want to talk about, let's say, young people between those ages and them having a higher chance, and I'm not even going to say a higher chance as much as it is them just actually just being the age group that tends to have the most. It's because this 9 times out of 10, we don't have like the education in schools like we used to. So it used to be a thing where you would have conversations in health about sexually transmitted infections. There wouldn't be, let's say, I would say this over conversation when it comes to, let's say, sexual identity and sexuality. And as a result of that, naturally, teens are going to be more curious. And so if you can even think about, like, let's say Dallas, for example, out of 19,000 cases of, let's say, chlamydia, and I'm talking about only one sexually transmitted infection, 60% of those cases were between 15 and 24-year-olds. And so it's that reminder that parents may not feel comfortable. They may not feel comfortable talking to their kids about sexually transmitted infections or, like, let's say, reproductive topics. Or you might have the reverse, where the child may not necessarily want to as well. But what I always tell parents is you can educate your kids, or the internet and their friends can educate their kids, which means that a child may not necessarily be prepared in those situations safely and responsibly. I get it. You know, the thing is you want to make sure that people are emphasizing abstinence, but that may not necessarily always be the case. And so teens don't know necessarily that things may be not just transmitted through actual sexual intercourse, but in contact with other bodily fluids. You know, they may not know the side effects of, let's say, if they get a sexually transmitted infection, what happens if you leave certain infections untreated? Like, what is the consequence of that? And that's what I'll go into in a little bit, because it has more of long-term consequences for younger adults than it does for older adults. And I'll go into that, Santita, just by even telling you a story really quickly. So when I first started caring for patients, I used to think that I wanted to go into OBGYN. It was something about seeing the cute little babies in the incubator. It was something about moms being pregnant. It was something that I actually wanted to do. But I will tell you that my experience changed being inside of, let's say, a lower income hospital where you actually had teenagers that were pregnant. You had teenagers that were getting hysterectomies and were going through so many different changes that me as a young adult, and I'm specifically speaking of our young Black teenagers and women, to be exact, or girls, teenage girls, is that they were actually having to get hysterectomies and getting, like, their women equipment removed. If you could imagine someone telling you that your fallopian tubes, you know, which are needed in order for you to have a baby, have now cinched away because you let a sexually transmitted infection go untreated for way too long. And so that's a common thing that happens when sexually transmitted diseases are not treated, meaning that people may actually, meaning your physician or your care team may actually have to take your baby equipment. So imagine someone going through that, and because they're not having that conversation out of shame and embarrassment, and because those parents may not be talking to them or they don't have those resources, they've now potentially messed up their ability to have children later on.
Why is it so? Did we see a decline in sexually transmitted infections when we had a really a solid education about reproductive health? You know, I mean, I knew in the spring, starting in 5th grade, I think it was, 5th grade, you were going to hear about, you know, how we got here, the birds and the bees. Does that help?
It does.
because those are opportunities of when you can actually bring in the notion of safety. Something else that should occur, which does have a direct link to it, is pornographic content. So with things being over-sexualized, with children having so much access to the internet, it's a completely different experience. And, you know, when I talk to, like, let's say, because I have teenagers, you know, so when I talk to my husband, when we talk to other parents, the one thing that is different is back then, Santita, and I'm probably sure, like, people can think through this, is that a child may have had to look for, let's say, a magazine. They may have had to wait for their parents to leave to watch a VHS tape. Where here it is, their computers is right in their phone, and there's access to a lot of different things. And so that promiscuity, that curiosity, is why we're going through this sexually transmitted, what we call sexually transmitted infection epidemic right now. Because there has been a ridiculously amount of growing cases. And just as I mentioned to you, when we're talking about 50 out of 100 new sexually transmitted infections happening, the fact that they are happening to that 15 to 24 group. And even though I'm talking about that 15 to 24 group, two other groups that cannot be ignored, Santita, is going to be the age group between 10 and 12.
10 to 12?
Which I know 10 to 12, and then the other age group of being older adults. So older adults came through during a time of where there may have not been, let's say, education, or these topics may have not been readily discussed. And as a result of that, they still don't stop having sexual intercourse even as they're older. And so you start to see an uptick of cases, even when it comes to, let's say, assisted living, nursing homes, just older adults in general. But because they have other health conditions that may occur, it's something that is not checked for as much until, oddly enough, it is too late. And so you may have an older adult that's experiencing confusion or having other complaints, you know, by the time it is figured out.
Why are sexually transmitted infections surging? I mean, what's happening? I mean, and they really started surging during the pandemic when we were supposed to be locked away and out of contact with each other. What happened?
So it's and so I guess, I mean, I'll be honest, like, I think we can think about, so it's not to put everything on a pandemic, but the pandemic definitely slowing things down. The numbers are alarming, but decrease in condom use, decrease in prevention and testing efforts, meaning people are less likely to go and get tested. They're less likely to have conversations about prevention. Changes, you know, in sexual behavior, meaning, you know, the promiscuity. There have been a while since, like, let's say, syphilis was around. There's been a 74% uptick of syphilis.
Why syphilis? Because, you know, as I read these stories, I'm just like, if you haven't heard about syphilis in like 100 years, why syphilis? You know, like, what's going on here? And then, you know, why are older black women so vulnerable now?
So that's the thing. It still does come down to access to care.
Okay.
It still does come down to access to care. The other thing too that I'm going to point out that's especially troubling, Santita, and especially as we talk about maternal and infant mortality, is that we do not discuss that there's been a 24% rise in congenital syphilis, which infects like fetuses in the womb. It can cause birth defects or even kill the baby. And it can even have issues with the mom as well. And so I know that there's discussions, and we know that it's around care. And this is not to get into maternal and infant mortality, But this is also that 24% increase in those cases is also not talked about. And so what happens is people who are infected but don't know it because they don't, like, let's say, have any symptoms of it, it goes undetected, it goes untreated, it can have devastating consequences that we don't talk about.
So how do you have a sexually transmitted infection and not know it?
So it's similar to, like, let's say, human papillomavirus virus.
Oh, HPV.
That HPV. Some things will show up for symptoms and some things may not show up as symptoms for others. I can tell you that some sexually transmitted infections may show up more on women where you can actually detect the symptoms, and some of them may show up on men in terms of it being visible. So if someone is having, let's say, unprotected engagement, and I'm saying engagement because it can be not just normal intercourse, it could be anal, it can be oral, there's different methods. If you don't know that about that particular individual and there doesn't seem to be any alarming signs and symptoms, that transmission can still occur without you being aware that they're actually carrying that infection.
So my question then for you is, if you're sexually active, should you be, whatever, however you do it, whether it's anal, oral, whatever it is, should you be tested regularly for STDs?
You should. And this is why you talk about those annual checkups. It's very important. Your doctors tend to go through screening questions. You tend to get labs drawn. Those labs being drawn, let's say you have an increase in your white blood cell count, to your doctor, that would be indicative of infection, which would make them, let's say, do some more investigative work. There is going to be questionnaires. So your physician or, your primary, could be a nurse practitioner, could ask you how many sexual partners have you had within the past month or the past year. Those triggering questions just within itself would actually go into them asking you more detailed questions so that way they can make sure that you're getting the best education as well as the best treatment. And so I always start with saying, make sure, and I know we've talked about this, Santita, and I know that there's challenges with people having access, but even if it's online access, even if it's pulling up your own questionnaires of things that you should do, everyone should have a primary care, and you should have a relationship with that primary care regularly, not just because of sexually transmitted infections, because of COVID, which is an infection, maybe not sexually transmitted, but we know that all of these things have potential long-term consequences. As a result of understanding that, it's essential that you have these resources in place, because some of these things we aren't aware of until it's already happened. And so to your point, how do you know? It's a screening measure that tends to happen if you don't have signs and symptoms that are showing up right away. Those signs and symptoms not showing up for you right away could show up for somebody else right away, and they could still be having consequences on you internally without you recognizing it.
So when we're talking with
I'm sorry, when you mentioned syphilis is one of those sexually transmitted infections that can be easily transmitted through oral sex. So we talk about a uptick of it. 9 times out of 10, that is where it comes from, and you're more likely to see it with men. You're more likely to see it with MSM. So that's considered men that have sex with men, 106 times more likely than you would with a man and a woman. However, even if it does happen and people are having multiple or anonymous partners, it tends to elevate the risk. And unfortunately, it is something that does include Black people, which is likely to be 5 times more elevated than white Americans. So Black Americans would be still at a higher risk than white Americans. because of having less access to care.
So it really does come down to the kind of care that you get. Why? I mean, it's clearly by the time you need care, it's not preventive care that you're
Exactly.
getting. So what difference does it make to get care? Can you get preventive care, or you do need care immediately once you think? Well, I mean, just not even when you think. Just once you have had sexual relations, you should be tested regularly just to know, right? And so, I mean, okay.
And when you say preventative is abstinence. Preventative is knowing your partner. Preventative is using protection. Preventative is making sure that you are being seen regularly or checked if you know that there is, let's say, some promiscuity that is occurring in terms of behavior. Preventative is also when we especially talk about syphilis. Syphilis can look like other things. So somebody might get rashes. They might get things that can look like it's eczema, psoriasis, or herpes. But the thing is it's going that extra mile and saying, hey, can I also be tested for this? And so a lot of times it's easily missed or it's misdiagnosed.
What is the final thing that you want us to know about these STDs? I mean, as we're watching them surge in older Black women and in children, even some of our children are having to get hysterectomies and life-changing surgeries because of this. What do you do? Because it's impacting clearly everybody everywhere.
Absolutely. And I think the first thing I want to start with is, and this is more so for parents, is that we are parents, and there are uncomfortable conversations that need to be had. But if you don't have them with your child, the children that you love, then someone else will. And if you can't be that person that's going to have it with your child, then consider another trusted family member that could have it. But just know that that child needs someone to talk to, because naturally, if anyone wants their family history or, let's say, their legacy to continue, that right there to stop someone's chance of family legacy without it even starting, because they're not getting the proper education around prevention, around protection that they would need in order for them to prevent complications that can occur as a result of getting an STI.
Sexually transmitted diseases versus sexually transmitted infections. Before you go, what is the difference?
It's the terminology, and when I say terminology, STD versus STI, meaning sexually transmitted disease. It's like a stigma of somebody having a disease or something that they can't get rid of, whereas a STI it can be treated. You know, some of them can be treated. And then to just notice sometimes people can have diseases without symptoms, whereas an infection, you actually have like an infection that is actively wreaking havoc. So that infection makes it more active opposed to something that's more passive.
So you're saying that if we change our terminology, maybe we'll be more apt to be less judgmental and seek the care that we need when it's a sexually transmitted infection as opposed to a disease that you can never, ever shake.
Absolutely, yes. And the fact that, you do have some that are curable diseases where somebody typically says, I got heart disease. Heart disease, you might be able to, let's say, manage the symptoms, but you're not going to get a new heart. If you say, I have a heart infection, then what kind of medications potentially or treatment are you getting to treat that infection? So there's two different, things. So if I say if I got a sexually transmitted disease, I can't get rid of that disease. If I have an infection, that means that something's happening with my body and my body needs to undergo treatment to get rid of it.
Dr. Shanina Knighton, everybody. Hey, Dr. Nina, HEYDRNINA. We've been talking with her about sexually transmitted sexually transmitted infections. Thank you for the correction, Dr. Knighton, because I had no idea that the terminology had changed. But it really does make sense, everybody, because maybe you'd be more apt to get tested when you feel that you've got a situation as opposed to something permanent that's going to take you out. All right, everybody. Dr. Shane, tonight we are sending you so much love. Let's talk about the Titan, everybody. Ocean Gate. Who's responsible? Turns out more and more people knew about the structural flaws. I even saw James Cameron, the great film director from Titanic, who said, look, number one, we knew by Monday definitively that everybody was gone. And this was totally preventable. Totally preventable. Submersibles of that kind are generally built stainless steel. Not this, they used a titanium. There's just a lot to talk about on the Santita Jackson Show. July 15th through the 19th at Rainbow Push International Conference. You gotta be there. Call 773-FREEDOM to get more information or go to rainbowpush.org. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a minute. Dr. Knighton?
Yep, I'm here.
Whew, thank you for that. Huh? Oh my gosh, you gotta see me sitting back. Oh Lord. Whew. It's a lot. But you know what, people, you don't think about needing to get tested, if you are active. And just because, the more you know, the better off you are. You can get things treated, everybody. You really can. It's not a death sentence. It's not a death sentence. And we shouldn't treat it that way. We shouldn't treat, they're just, if you get the proper treatment, you can go on about your business. Yeah, I said it. Am I wrong?
No, absolutely. But I think the biggest thing is it's this normalization that people can get treatment. But what happens when treatment don't work?
Well, no, there's that.
And that's the thing. That is honestly what is so concerning to me about a lot of this, because we don't think about what happens when treatments run out. And honestly, when we talk about this antibiotic crisis that we're in right now, with shortages as well as with why things are not working, STIs go into that. There's a lot of things that go into that. And potentially that's something that we should discuss next week, Santita, is just talking about antimicrobial resistance, because this is a problem that we're in right now that many people just aren't paying attention to. But what happens when you go get something that will be treated? You go to have a condition that would be normally treated by antibiotic, and your doctor tells you, I can't give that to you because it no longer works. And this is where we're coming to as these drugs continue to evolve.
Okay, look, I want to do that because, this is when you, as one of my college hallmates used to say, she said, honey, this is when we get down to down. These are the questions that people have. And we want to normalize these discussions for you, everybody, so that we can stop being embarrassed, stop judging people. It doesn't, one day it's a funny thing, and I'm not even judging him, but I just know how spiritual law works. Donald Trump shouted, lock her up, lock her up, lock her up in 2016. And now look at him. And before you start pointing your finger at him, remember, you have 3 fingers and a thumb coming back at you. We can all do it, and we've all done it. So be careful what you say about someone, think about someone, feel about someone or something, because guess what? They could be coming in your direction. So let's normalize these discussions, everybody. Let's normalize them. Let's normalize them so that you can just go on and be well. How about that? What did you say, Dr. Knighton? Let's normalize health, normalize wellness. Yeah.
Let's normalize not getting sick.
Normalize not getting sick.
That's it. Let's normalize not. We gotta be sick.
Yeah, and and watch what you say and how you say it too. I have a friend, every time I speak with him, bless his heart, how you doing? Oh, I'm fair. I'm like, no, I don't think you should say that. You need to err on the side of wellness. How about that? It's just, just a thought. Just a thought. Just a thought, everybody. Just a thought. So I want to thank you for that. But I'm glad that we're able to normalize these things now and just really and talk about them. But I remember one of the first birds and the bees discussions my mother had. There were several of them. I could see now. I look back, Mrs. Ramsey Lewis. We honored him last night, and his first wife, who was the mother of his 7 children. She took her daughter, Dawn and I were best friends growing up, downtown so we could get our first little brasiers. And, she got us our first little brasiers. I mean, girl, they were essentially T-shirts. Whatever. And we got these blue shoes, and she got us all these little things. I could tell she and my mother had worked all of this out. And then we went and had a lunch with them downtown. We were just looking like, what are they talking? Why are they talking to us about this right now? What? Are we saying, ew? Can we just go back and read Little Women? Oh, girl, you think about, your childhood and how innocent it all was. At least, and I have to tell you, I've been blessed because mine was, in many respects, innocent. In some other ways, not. When, death threats and whatnot kind of change things. Hey, Maria. So,
Hi, Ms. Jackson.
yes, who do we have?
We have Attorney Sanat, Attorney Patillo, and Attorney Fancher. And we have 2 minutes.
Let me
left in the
say
break.
hello to them.
Okay.
Okay, Attorney Sanat.
Yes,
You don't have
I'm
to
here.
You don't have to call me prophetic, but
What happened?
no, I mean yesterday you were like, can you believe we were just talking about this today? Attorney Patel,
Yeah.
we talked about this, and Attorney Fancher, we talked about this yesterday. I said there's something up. See, you know what you always have to watch, and I have Dr. Shanina Knighton here with us. You need to get her before the Haitian American community to talk about infection prevention. We were just talking about STDs, because now that it's not even STDs, it's sexually transmitted infections. I'm going to connect her to you, because she is absolutely brilliant.
Okay, no problem.
And she said we've got to be CEOs of our health, normalize wellness, and all of that. But and Attorney Fancher and Attorney Patillo, and Attorney Patillo, I need to speak with you after the show. Really briefly, can you call me right after the show?
Totally.
Okay, very good.
Good morning, everybody.
This is Attorney Sanat. Oh wow, I'm trying to get so much stuff in. But oh yeah, but when the night before we found out that they had found these, which they had already found them. They were trying to come up with the story. They were trying to craft it, and I get it.
30 seconds.
This is a multi-billion-dollar enterprise, because it's a very small exclusive club, and it costs a lot of money to have these deep sea dives. It was the fact that they dropped in the news, in these obscure newspapers, and I read everything, that these people had that there had been lawsuits filed against OceanGate.
Stand by.
I said, this is the problem. Number one, I said these people are gone, and something. Stand by.
Change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. It is Friday, June 23rd, 2023. I'm Santita Jackson, coming to you from WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Please meet my morning stars on the Santita Jackson and Friends Facebook page. And please, Lorraine, Kenneth, Obadiah, and everyone, please shift on over to the YouTube channel, the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Please, please, please get on over there. I am Santita Jackson today. Joy to be with you today as we talk. It's pretty sad, what happened with the OceanGate Titan submersible. It turns out all 5 souls were killed. That maybe not even 2 hours into this expedition, contact was lost between us, the submersible, the submarine, and the people above ground. And they knew something had happened. And indeed, our U.S. Navy knew that something had happened. They heard the implosion. So they knew on Sunday that something awful was happening. I can only imagine what their families and loved ones are going through, knowing that other people knew, and people in that community. I saw James Cameron, the famed, brilliant director from Titanic, who's done. He's really one of the world's great experts in this field. He did at least 30 dives in his research for the movie The Titanic, and he's known as an absolute expert in this space. He said, I knew on Sunday something catastrophic had happened. By Monday, we had confirmed it, those of us in our community. People with net worths of at least $30 million tend to take these expeditions. And before we judge them too harshly, rule breakers and people who reshape the society, they're a little different. That having been said, if you're going to do these things, you should at least know the risks. Out the young boy who was on this trip with his father, the 19-year-old, from one of Pakistan's leading families, indeed one of the wealthiest families. Turns out he didn't want to go. He did not want to go. It turns out he did not want to go. And we see that the lawsuit that charged the Titanic with these catastrophic flaws, well, now you can't find the paperwork for it. How about that? So there's a lot that we got to talk about today. And attorney Anastasia Sanat, who's with us, she said yesterday, you need to look at the whistleblowers. She took us on a whole different journey. She said, wait, because this was preventable. Of course, we've got attorney Mark Fancher joining us and attorney Robert Patillo. I cannot wait to hear what you have to say. But when I think about Suleiman Dawood, 19 years old, who did not want to go, but he went, he said, it's Father's Day. So I'm going to go with my dad. It'll be a bonding experience. Oh, wow. I'm praying for his surviving sibling and his mom and everybody today. So let's look at corporate responsibility, corporate malfeasance. Let's talk about reading the fine print. I mean, all of that. Because a lot of people are weighing in and they have all kinds of feelings about this. Many people have said, you know what? I would not have gone back down with them because I don't think that I didn't think it was safe. Submarines of this type are made with steel. This was made with titanium. Got a lot to talk about, everybody. Let's get to some of the headlines on the Santita Jackson show so we can get back into this topic. Yet another Republican is joining the 2024 race for the White House. Former Texas Republican Will Hurd, who's also a former CIA officer who served in the House from 2015 to 2021, who is a noted Trump critic. Well, guess what? He is joining the race. He launched his presidential campaign, joining this crowded field. But he has been outspoken in his criticism of former President Trump following his indictment and arrest on federal charges, one of the few, over his alleged mishandling of classified documents, and was a rare Republican critic during his time in Congress. All right, everybody. Impeachment. The House of Representatives on Thursday voted to send a resolution offered by Republican Lauren Boebert of Colorado to committee, effectively pausing a move to bring a motion to the floor that would have forced members to vote on whether to impeach President Joe Biden. The rule was passed along party lines. Her resolution had divided the House Republicans, with many members expressing frustration with her push to force a long shot vote on a politically contentious issue going into 2024. And of course, the Titanic-bound submarine that went missing on Sunday with 5 people on board suffered a, quote, catastrophic implosion, close quote, killing everyone inside, according to the U.S. Coast Guard. A remotely operated vehicle found identifiable pieces in 2 debris fields, everybody. And the first debris field was 1,600 feet away from the bow of the shipwreck. And of course, the Titan went down looking for the Titanic, sending everyone so much love today. And I want to hear from you. What do you think about this? Do you think there was just too much risk? What do you think about the fact that now the lawsuit, you don't know anything? We don't have the paperwork on that. What is up with that? Chicago would have a high of 78 degrees, mostly sunny. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 90 degrees, scattered thunderstorms. The Twins will be playing the Tigers in baseball. The Red Sox will be facing off against the Red Sox versus the White Sox. And tomorrow the Cubs will be facing off against the Cardinals. In the WNBA, let's Support our sisters playing this professional basketball. They are great. The Mystics 80, the Sky 59, the Sun 89, the Lynx 68. And in soccer, don't forget that, everybody, more and more of our kids are getting into world soccer, everybody, world football. The Sporting KC will be facing off against the Chicago Fire, and the Real Salt Lake team will be facing off against Minnesota. And those are the headlines. Well, call us at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. What do you think about this case? OceanGate CEO, who was killed tragically, Stockton Rush. He was killed on Sunday. He admitted, quote, and I've seen several of these interviews, well, I've broken some rules to make this submarine. I think I've broken them with logic and good engineering behind me. And yet, one of his top employee in the space was fired after he said, we are looking at a catastrophic failure. Those were his terms. Well, okay, this is what happened. Not even 2 hours into this trip. Apparently, the deeper you dive, the more pressure you have. We don't know all the information, but people are speculating that that is what happened. This is a vessel that was not made of steel. Vessels like these are made of steel, everybody. And more people are saying that they signed up to be aboard. There's a gentleman who said, I signed up to be aboard this, explorer Chris Brown. He said, but he pulled out because it didn't seem like a professional diving in operation, and on and on and on and on. Who is culpable? Who is responsible? Did the people who were on this trip, did they know just the kind of risk that they were assuming? Did they know, okay, this is not a steel, a submersible made of steel. This is made of titanium. Is this strong enough? On and on and on. What do we do in an emergency situation? Well, you know, just like getting on a flight, that's what they do, but no one really thinks about it. You just get on the flight, go to sleep, wake up, and that's it. Well, didn't quite happen this way for these gentlemen. So we've got attorney Robert Patillo, we have got attorney Mark Fancher, and attorney Anastasia Sanat. Well, Anastasia Sanat, attorney Sanat, you were right on top of this yesterday.
Good morning.
You said the whistleblower.
Oh, yeah.
They need their protection, and they need to be listened to.
Yes. And I think that's what happened here. In this situation, I read a few articles. Obviously, I was not involved in OceanGate. I'm not familiar with the company directly. But when I did my research and I looked into the company and I looked into the articles that I was reading, there was a uniqueness of this watercraft, which was the viewport, where people can see the fishes and the whales and all of those things. And that is where we had a situation that was told to us by David Lockridge that said, you're only going to have milliseconds in order to indicate that there's going to be some kind of failure. A lot of different things could fail, and if they all fail at one time when you're under the water, you're not going to have enough time, as you already mentioned, to get back up to the surface at a level that will allow people to survive. So in this particular situation, the whistleblower is important because in this day and age, when you're dealing with private companies and private contractors, and you have them hired, and and these companies engage in what is called retaliation, right? Retaliatory behavior, then people that don't know about these things, right? People who don't know about the lawsuit or the counterclaims or the contact with OSHA, as I explained yesterday, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, and how some of the laws have been used in order to try to protect them, then the public becomes unaware. So when David Lockridge was trying to explain to people, you could die, clients could die, we need to fix this. These are the different types of corrective action I think it needs to be done. And remember, we talked about yesterday, testing. Destructive testing needed to be accomplished, and it was not. So when we look at the fact that the CEO, I'm not sure if it was a little too comfortable in the fact that in 2021 they were able to do a successful dive. In 2022 they were able to do a successful dive. But a lot of different flaws could have come from both of those dives that could have contributed to what happened in this year, 2023.
Well, hold on. They say that each successive dive, they said that each successive dive made that submersible, made that submarine more vulnerable to catastrophic disaster.
Absolutely.
That was one of the
Absolutely.
Mr. Lockridge's pushbacks. He said, "Wait a minute! Every time you put this under, the deeper you take it, the more often you take it down, the more vulnerable this particular submarine is."
I mean, it's just like a car. Wear and tear occurs, period. So when you're talking about going 12,500 feet under the water, where obviously the global positioning system is not going to work, you've got to have a different way of being able to communicate, and you've got to have a different way of being able to protect people. And if you're trying to be unique, and this experimental submersible has a viewport so that you can see kind of like when you're in an aquarium, I think that's the objective of what Stockton Rush was trying to do, right? He just wanted people to be able to be in like a little submarine and then look at it like an aquarium. But in doing that, you have to really test how much pressure is going to be on that viewport, and if the rest of the body can withstand it. Because the way that I saw some of these videos in which he was describing the controls, it was just a game control, up, down, left, right, in order to move the machine. There was filming of some kinds of sonar that was included in this, like, I think it's the size of a minivan. So there was some sonar included in it, and there were some other things included in it. But at the end of the day, I just want to go back to the fact that we should have protected the clients by listening to the whistleblower, but we didn't. And there are no laws in the United States, and Congress needs to pass these laws to protect these people, because in protecting these people, you protect the rest of the United States of America. And of course, obviously in this situation, British citizens, Canadian citizens, people who have connections to other parts of the world. We need to make sure we protect people in those positions.
But the government was contacted, because those are the entities with whom you must interact, although this was a private enterprise. And as I look at the Supreme Court being more business friendly, more corporatist than ever before, it seems like our government is the same, because no one stepped in and said, "Hey, you don't need to go down anymore. We need to check the integrity of this machine." It's just because, these are the masters of the universe, and they can do what they want. I mean, because I saw, bless his heart, may he rest in peace, the OceanGate CEO, Stockton Rush, who, he was very, very, confident, I'll put it this way, about breaking some rules. And you know what? People who change things do break the rules. Yeah, because the rules are made to be broken. But you know what? Safety is meant to be observed. And I worry about that. I worry, about, it's like, wait a minute, did anyone have the power to do anything? And yes, somebody did. And I think that ultimately our government has to check a private corporation, because it was our Coast Guard that went out there and had to go find them, Attorney Sinat. And it was our Coast Guard that said on Sunday, something happened. They heard the implosion. They said they heard it.
But this is the thing. So when we're thinking about what happened in all the different countries, who's going to pay for that search and rescue that took 5 days that they already knew occurred at 1 hour and 45 minutes on Sunday?
Who? Us?
Who's going to pay for all of that? The taxpayers. We are. We paid for all of this. All that news, all that media, all that attention, all that focus on the U.S. Coast Guard, the Canadians that were helping, the French that assisted. The taxpayers paid for that. For 5 people. There's so many other things that were going on in the world, right? And yet these 5 individuals trusted the CEO, who didn't want to do the right thing and listen to the whistleblower. And they knew. Hour and 45 minutes later, the implosion had occurred. But we spent so much time and energy looking for that.
And and then I think about the ratings for television. Yeah, I'm going there, everybody, because I think this is awful, because the higher ups knew something happened. They almost always know.
Right.
When there's a plane crash, they know something. They know there were no survivors. They know. They know. So I mean, come on now, and they knew Robert Patillo, something was terribly, terribly wrong with this, but no one did anything.
Well, just from the beginning, the story didn't make sense. As soon as my wife told me about it, I told her they were dead. And she said, you don't think there's hope? They said there's oxygen. Just for 5 people, the idea of having in that little RV size thing, minivan size thing, enough air for 5 days without a rebreather, that was silly from the beginning. You have a few hours worth of oxygen. Anybody who's ever gone scuba diving knows that 5 people breathe up a lot of air. So the best news that we've heard thus far is that it imploded and they died instantly. Because for me, it would be far more horrible to be sitting in a little tube with 5 people slowly dying over the course of 10 hours. So the fact that they died instantly, more than likely they were liquefied when the pressure hit them. At that depth, you're talking about 357 pounds of pressure per square inch. So you're talking about the weight of a baby elephant every square inch around you. So when there's any breach, it can be a breach as small as a millimeter, or just a seal that isn't completely closed, or a worn washer, any sort of thing can be enough to just throw off the tensile balance of the material, and it's all it takes to collapse it in. Think about when you're holding a soda can in your hand, when it's closed, you can't squeeze it. You put a hole in it, you can crush it immediately. That's pretty much what happens in reverse. But there's this question of assumption of the risk. From what I understand, the waiver that you have to fill out before you get on this mentions depth no less than 5 times on the first page. And I just think about it as myself. If I'm getting on a CTA bus and the bus driver has an Xbox controller in his hand, and I say, well, what are you doing with the Xbox controller? He says, I'm about to drive the bus with it. I'm probably going to get off. So I'm just, I think a lot of people, the reason you see this reaction is there's so many red flags.
Yes.
I mean, the Xbox controller, the guy says the lights inside he got from IKEA, the little screen, they were running Windows XP on it, I believe. The camera was a GoPro. You know, there's no federal safety inspectors involved in this. There's no industry inspectors involved in all this. There are more safeguards if you're going scuba diving than if you were going on this little machine. I think the other reason you're seeing this reaction from around the world of more so being mockery than sympathy is that we're at the exact same time you had the boat collapse in Greece, 600 people on board, 350 Pakistanis, so far almost 100 people dead. You've got no news coverage of myself being of Haitian descent. When I think of the way that the media covers the Haitian quote-unquote boat crises every time, and the derisive nature of that. And so then when it's some billionaires who paid money to get into like a minivan and go down to see the Titanic with an Xbox controller. You know, I think many people are of the opinion that this just shows the nature of income inequality in this world. That we have people who are so rich and we have a social system that rewards them. They just throw away enough money to feed entire villages. Just throw away enough money to change the trajectory of people's lives in the developing world. And I think because of this, you're seeing many people, instead of being, sad about what happened, if you look on social media, most of the responses are simply saying that we have to find a way that instead of concentrating so much wealth in the 1%, that we can spread it out among more people, because there are people who are literally dying to cross the Mediterranean for the opportunity at a better life. And meanwhile, other people are throwing money away to go look at the Titanic through a window.
Well, I've now, because when I was watching CNN this morning, this gentleman who is one of these divers, and the average net worth of these persons who take these dives is $30 million, because it costs a lot of money to go down, several $100,000. He said now, people who are rule breakers, people who are risk takers, they're the ones who change this world. And so that's who these people are. They're the masters of the universe. He didn't say masters of the universe, but that's it. But you know what I think? I can't help but think of Cotton Reader and Amelia Boynton and Rosa Parks. These people changed the world too, and they didn't dive into the depths of the ocean to do that. Although underwater exploration is important as we understand more and more about our world. So I hear you. So I just want to know what talk to me. I've got about a minute.
Well, Santita, I think it's important for people to understand that the whole reason we discovered the Titanic in the first place was a huge government cover-up. I'm not saying that from a conspiracy theory point of view. That's just what happened. The federal government had lost. Yeah, the federal government had lost two nuclear submarines in the 1960s at the bottom of the ocean in the general area of the Titanic. So they financed a company in 1985 to go locate those two submarines. And in order to make sure the Soviets didn't find out why they had these deep sea explorers and boats, etc., they made the cover story that they were looking for the Titanic, and they happened to find the Titanic while they were finding the submarines at the bottom of the ocean. But because of that, I think people are rightly skeptical of the entirety of of this. But we've been lied to from the beginning. Hey, they might have 48 hours worth of oxygen. Oh, hey, we heard banging. Remember when they said they were hearing banging from pipes or something that they were picking up every 30 minutes? And they said, well, this is still a search and rescue. Then people had died immediately. Like about an hour after they went down, they were dead. So the amount of lying that went on.
They knew it.
Exactly.
The Navy said, you know,
I wonder what they're trying to cover up now. I wonder what they're trying to cover up now.
I can't wait to hear from Mark Fancher about this. Because, you know, I mean, the Navy knew it. They said the sensors heard the implosion as soon as it happened. Come on, y'all.
And then the building. And then look, I am a 90s alternative rock fan, but if my dad was trapped in the submarine, I wouldn't be able to beat a Blink-182 concert. So the sons of the Blink-182 concert, they knew the thing blew up, where they lied about it being sounds every 30 minutes. The whole story ain't making sense and adding up. I think most people are of the opinion of, I'm waiting to hear the rest of what's going on before I make any very firm opinions about this. Because it sounds like a nonsense story. Someone just told you it on the train.
Something back with more of the Santita Jackson Show. See, that's why you need to be at the Rainbow Push Convention, July 15th through the 19th, because we're going to be having these kinds of conversations. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a minute. Oh, D. Ray Jones said Robert is coming on strong today. What? I mean, this is bothered. Well, see, I got the right crew. Between you, Mark Fancher, and Attorney
Patillo came strong.
Well, and Attorney Fancher will too. That you all are the crunchiest people in the world, and I love it. But you know what? It breaks my heart. I'm not laughing at this situation. I'm not at all. It's painful. But I said somebody knew something early on, and James Cameron has had an extensive interview with Anderson Cooper. And he said, you know, it's a small, tight community of us who have taken these kinds of dives. And of course, you know, these people are enormously wealthy, but you also have to be curious enough to do this. Because everyone who takes a dive is not wealthy, but they might have expertise in this area. That having been said, he said this was completely preventable, number one. And I was struck by that. He said, and we knew Sunday something had gone horribly wrong. And by Monday, we knew that they were gone. He said, so I asked everyone in that community to lift a glass. So this is Friday. It was yesterday. They said, oh, well, things, you know, well, now we know that they're gone. I'm like, no, you all knew Sunday. And it turns out the Navy said, no, on Sunday we knew. You're not going to do something in this ocean. It's like you know. And I'm just saying, you knew what? And so that means you also knew about these lawsuits. The lawsuits that are, excuse me, you guys, that are the lawsuit that is missing now. The paperwork on the lawsuit that alleged the flaws with this Titan submersible is missing. Hello, y'all. Who? Are you still there?
Yes, I think Attorney Patillo hit the nail on the head when he said there's some kind of conspiracy. Just like they made up a conspiracy theory that they were looking for the Titanic, and in reality they were doing something else. There's obviously something else that was going on that they were doing during this 5-day search. It couldn't have possibly been to look for these 2 minutes. They knew on Sunday, Father's Day, had perished through an implosion. So they must have been doing something different.
I just think of young Suleiman's mother. I know she must be sick. I said, you know, I cannot imagine my mother sitting through that preparation. Number one, she heard death one time. She would have been like, that's it. You're not going, and your father's not going. Boom. Not on that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I mean, on human rights, civil rights. Well, these are the risks that we have to take. But on that, my mother would have said absolutely not. But she also, I mean, just as a mother would have said, no, wait a minute now. You mean to tell me there's a lawsuit against you all? Wait a minute.
Yeah.
I mean, that was settled out of court? What? And the paperwork is missing?
And the video showed that there was an interviewer, I believe it was a British reporter that interviewed the CEO, Stockton Rush, who was married to the great-great-granddaughter of the people that perished in the Titanic. They basically said it looked like it was pieced together. They didn't say that it was done in a professional way. It looked like it was pieced together. Like it looked like a MacGyver event is what they said. So I think that's very interesting that all these other people, including the reporters that
back in 30
with, were basically telling him it doesn't look safe.
Chris Brown was on CNN saying that. He signed up to be on board. He said he pulled out because it did not seem like a professional diving operation. Then you have Stockton Rush, who said, "No, I've broken some rules, with logic and good engineering. You better not listen to everybody. I don't care how confident they are. Stand by everybody. We're coming up." That's right, Lorraine. My mom would have shut it down too. Yeah. And she wouldn't have been shy about it. I love that woman because she is crazy. I'm so glad that she is.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am
Everybody, it's Friday, June 23rd, 2023. Just a few weeks away from the Rainbow Push International Conference, 3 weeks actually. We do hope that you'll join us there. Call 773-FREEDOM, 773-FREEDOM after 9 a.m. Central Standard Time today. Get more information. Go to rainbowpush.org. I'm going to be there. It's going to be a great conference. We'll be talking about a lot of issues like these, everybody. Let me give a special shout out to my sweetie, Abraham Carreño. I just love you and I want to acknowledge you. He is just the loveliest man and he speaks in such a romantic way. And I love that. I love a gentleman. You are a gentilhomme. I love it. I love it. I love it. Sending you much love. Said he has the pleasure of meeting me virtually. Anastasia Sanat. And although today you are far from my arms, I feel you in my soul. Girl, come on. You know I love that.
Okay.
I do. I'm not joking. I think it's very sweet. It's very sweet, because it just kills me when men say, "I hope you don't mind," but I think you. I'm like, wait a minute, honey, I love men who love me. I'm that girl. Come on now. All right, everybody, call us at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. I think we might have to put Robert Patillo over in a box. Attorney Anastasia Sanat.
He came in strong. He gave him some great insight.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, what were they doing for those 5 days if they knew at 1 hour and 45 minutes that there was an implosion?
They knew.
So what were you doing with the search and rescue?
Search and rescue.
Right. So if they knew and they were leading the public on, or leading people that were watching or paying attention and not paying attention to the actual things that were going on that were more catastrophic, I should say, more tragedy that was happening in the world, but they were focused on these 5 people. What were they doing during that time? What were they doing during that search and rescue?
Well, Attorney Mark Fancher, you got the runway. Go for it. What do you make of all of this? The CEO said, I've broken some rules. We find out that the paperwork for the lawsuit that alleged these catastrophic flaws, they're missing. People who could have been on this, one man who could have been on this expedition said he pulled out because it didn't seem like a professional diving operation. And then you have Expedition Unknown host Josh Gates. He said he dove in this sub, but decided against going down again because it did not perform well. Indeed, they had problems communicating with people on the surface. It would fail every time. Whew. Attorney Mark Fancher, take us away.
Well, the corporate world spends untold amounts of money trying to cultivate its image on an ongoing basis. And they've been very successful at it. Through research of psychology and, the general thought patterns and practices of people. They know what messages to send, how to send it, how to package it. And they've succeeded very, very well in persuading the rest of us that the corporate world is really a benevolent community, that they are people who are looking out for the best interest of their customers, the consumers generally. On some level, most of us believe that. And so when something like this happens, then it strikes many as an aberration, as something that's unusual, a strange occurrence. And so we need to look at it. Even when we discover suggestions that there was negligence or even maybe criminal intent involved, this is still regarded as something that's unusual, that it's strange, that corporations are basically good. That's the message that they've been brainwashing us with for as long as they've been in existence. But for those of us who are clear thinking, we have some sense of history, and we understand that there's nothing unusual about this at all. It has been going on for a very long time in various different ways. It has taken different forms. It's manifested in different ways. But one of the more significant ones that some of us remember because we're old is in the early 1970s when Ford manufactured the Pinto vehicle. They rushed it through production. They had some sense that the gas tanks in these vehicles would explode once there's a collision, but they put them on the market anyway. And so this is pretty much par for the course for corporations, and it raises some questions. I think that one question, obvious one, is how do you stop it? And for many, the immediate thought is that maybe through laws we can in some way reform the major corporations. Somehow we can get them to have a greater sense of responsibility to the consumers. But we also have to remember that the corporations own the government in a practical sense. They really do. And they make decisions about what the laws will be. And even when the laws are enacted, which are designed to in some way control them or limit them, when those laws are interpreted, then those laws are interpreted by a Supreme Court, which also is in their hip pocket. So they've got everything pretty much locked down. And if we just continue to go along with the program that they've set up, with the system that they've set up, then there really isn't too much hope for us because they're driven at bottom by the capitalist imperative. And, I've always said and believe in my heart of hearts that capitalism as a system was designed by Satan himself. Because what it posits as the driving motivation is greed. That you try and you get profits in any way that you can, no matter who you hurt, no matter how destructive it may be for the society or for the planet, you get those profits. And the contradictory message that if you, in the course of destroying things, hurting people, you still get lots of profits, that will be regarded as a virtue. That you will be regarded as heroic. Earlier in the conversation, we were talking about how some of these people are regarded as world changers and that kind of thing. Yeah, they change the world in ways which are destructive and harmful. And so we would much rather have an R.B. Cotton Reader as somebody that we would look up to, somebody who's actually trying to change the world for the better, as opposed to many of these corporate executives and others who are hell-bent on trying to get profits for the sake of profits and for their own enrichment and for, in ways that destroy the planet. Those are not heroic people. Those are greedy people. And so if you have, as in this case, a submersible vehicle that is likely to kill people, and you send it anyway because you want the money, then that is a very strong indication of your character as a human being. It is a strong indication of the character of corporations, which are, as a group, not only amoral but immoral, and it should cause anybody who has the best intentions, not just for humanity but for the planet, to come to the inescapable conclusion that an economic system that allows this to happen, not only allows it, but encourages it, promotes it, and says that this is good for the planet, it's good for human beings, to reject that system. Capitalism must be destroyed. There is no other conclusion that any reasonable person could reach, that any person who is a responsible person can reach. It just simply must be, just based on its fundamental tenets, its fundamental principles, and the dynamic which drives it. And I think that's where we are. I mean, we can address this issue. Lawsuits can be filed against the company. Laws reforming corporate behavior or intended to reform corporate behavior can be enacted. But ultimately, those are not going to stop the next incident when a corporation driven by greed and the capitalist imperative kills some more people.
Call us at 773-763-WCPT, 773-763-9278. I mean, I have to tell you, I glad each of you are offering the perspectives that you're offering, because you're not hearing that in corporate media. And there were red flags everywhere, everybody, for years, and our government even knew. And yet they allowed them to go on because, as Attorney Fancher correctly noted, they're in the hip pocket of corporate America too. So is our Supreme Court. They've captured the whole government, and you don't have a say unless you decide that you're going to have one. Let me go to Anita. Anita, what's on your mind? Call us at 773-763-WCPT. Miss Anita?
Santita.
Hey.
I just can't stress how much. Good morning. I cannot stress how much I love your father and that your brother came into our community in the south side of Chicago and tried to take on that massive mess. Much more pressure on him than that pressure that was on that tank that was in the ocean to save people from being just massacred for greed and give them a chance of living and breathing. And it's just not out here. And your brother was sabotaged and politically assassinated and kicked to the curb for minor things that corporations do all the time. And their lobbyists and whatever the crap. You're talking about our whole government is owned by corporations. The corporations use free labor that people had to have babies for and raise for 18 years. I mean, they're not responsible for the labor and things that they're getting because people have to work for years to even have a labor force of people to think and do the things that they need people to do that they want for free. No parent gets to raise a child for free and just give it to a corporation and say, oh, hey, forget it. I don't have grandchildren. I don't have anything. You just do whatever you want to do. Because somebody's got a head that's too strong and too big and too stupid to understand that they're human like the rest of us. And as long as the rest of us sell out for a few crimes, this is going to continue to happen. And I thank your brother for his integrity. And I love him dearly. And may God bless him richly for all of what he has done for this world and this life and for the next future generations that nobody's giving him credit for. Santita, I really feel for you and your family. May God bless you all.
Oh, let me tell you, we're held up by grace. And when I get calls from you, and, a lot of people have prayed for us, and that's why we're still here, by God's grace and yours. And we thank you for that. And let me just be very, very clear. When restitution, Attorney Fancher, Attorney Patillo, and Attorney Anastasi, when we found out that our brother was in difficulty, this is someone who had a perfect voting record. Perfect. He only missed one vote to bury our grandfather. That was it. And suddenly you saw his whole world come apart. Even the judge who sentenced him, who did not want to sentence him, she chastised his team. She said, look, this guy went from having a perfect record to his whole world coming apart. Something happened here. And it turns out his bipolar disorder
brought it to the attention, didn't he? Attorney Santita just said, everybody's in somebody's pocket. The Supreme Court, you mentioned it, I think it was with Dr. Max Wolf you had on yesterday, and he was talking about it goes so high. Actually, yeah, they were listening. But I also think Attorney Patillo brought it up. You know, social media has algorithms. And so yesterday when all the news broke about the watercraft being actually imploding within an hour and 45 minutes, there was an algorithm message that came up about Andrew Gillum when he was running for Florida governor, that he was having a debate with Ron DeSantis. In it, he says, I'm not calling you a racist, but the neo-Nazis are supporting you. These corporations are supporting you. This money, you're not saying anything about why you have that money, and you're not saying that you're going to give it back. And then what happens? He gets elected. Andrew Gillum messes up. But he gets elected, and what happens? We got all these changes to Florida law.
Andrew Gillum did not do anything that these other people are not doing. They decided to take him out.
Right. But he messed himself up because, you know, black people are held to a different standard.
No, but I'm saying everybody messes themselves up. Some people are allowed to get away. I don't need to call anyone out. People who are getting slapped on the wrist today publicly.
Oh, of course, like the influenza case in which the kid killed 4 people and he got 0 prison time. But then a little boy defends himself and by that one punch kills somebody and ends up in jail for 10 years. I completely understand the system of injustice.
Among others, they didn't want my brother to pay restitution. They wanted none of that. He said, "Oh, so you want me to go to prison?" They said, he said, "Oh, no." He said, "No, we're going to shut this down and I will go." My brother said that. And I told him, as much as all of this pained him, I said, I have more respect for you now than I did with your almost perfect voting record. And he looked at me. I said, "Oh, yeah." I said, you manned up, honey. I said, because you let them know that you are not frightened of them. Because all that you raise as a congressman in either house, in the upper house and the lower house, guess what? As soon as you decide not to run for election, that becomes your personal money. This is all a joke. And I think that's why we need to look at what happened in this case, Attorney Sinat and Attorney Fancher. And Attorney Fancher makes the point. Our government has been captured by corporate America. These whistleblowers, it's several of them. They tried to warn us that this was a problem. They didn't use steel, they used titanium. They said, no, this material's too weak. When you go beneath they have no bodies to find. There was an implosion. What did you say? They were liquefied. There's nothing left. And you mean to tell me this can happen? But the whistleblowers, they're the ones who can't get jobs. They're the ones who blackballed. Julian Assange is in jail. Chelsea Manning. Reality talk show. I mean, are you serious? When are we going to be protected here? I mean, Mark Fancher, come on now. This is ridiculous. And then you have hundreds of people who are dying all over the world all day. And these people, and they knew that these folks were gone. Our Navy knew that they were gone on Sunday. I wonder, did they tell the Dawood family? No, it's over. I don't think they did. And that's what bothers me about this.
Well, you know, there's also just an ugly selfishness about it. You know, when these kinds of decisions are made about going ahead with production of unsafe products, you know, it reflects. It's a real indication of just how selfish those who make these decisions are. Because the only thing that they're concerned about in the moment is, you know, how much profit can we make? You know, how can we do this in a way that minimizes the cost, allows us to accelerate production and get lots of money? And if there are problems, then that's going to be down the road, and maybe we won't even be alive to have to deal with it. And that very often is the thinking, that, you know, we really don't care about consequences because there's every chance that we'll be able to profit from this, live our lives and amass huge fortunes, and then whatever mess we make, whatever damage we cause, somebody else will have to clean it up, and we just don't have to worry. And it's a roll of the dice for them. I mean, sometimes, as in this case, it happens in ways that they hoped it wouldn't, And so at that point, then they have to go into trying to limit the harm to themselves, damage control. So when you've got this mysterious search going on for several days, when they already know the outcome, then that's more than likely an opportunity to figure out how to come out on the other side of this in a way that is not quite as harmful as it would be if we were to go public with this right away.
Were you going to say something, Robert?
So I just think the biggest part that we have to take away from this is that if they are able to use their media to focus this much spotlight on the Ocean Gates tragedy, we have to use every resource we have to focus spotlight on the Greek boating tragedy and the continuous immigration crisis happening between Africa and Europe, where the folks who took all these people's stuff are now getting visited by the folks whose stuff they took. And now many of these boats are being sunken in the Mediterranean. They're not just capsizing. And then we have to look at the conditions that are being created that are forcing people to have these mass migrations from the developing world to the quote-unquote developed world. The same border crisis we have here in America, the same border crisis they're having in the Mediterranean. And because of that, the same right-wing extremist groups that are percolating here in America are also percolating globally. So as much as this consternation there is around these billionaires, well, until we're going to do something about the virus that is capitalism, the cancer that is capitalism that simply consumes and concentrates into these individuals, we're not going to be able to make the systemic changes that are necessary in order for everyone to have the standard of living where maybe all of us can one day afford to hop in a little tube with an Xbox controller and go underwater. Maybe we also have enough money to be able to do that, but we cannot do that if we're going to concentrate wealth into the hands of the few as opposed to the many.
Well, baby, you can go on down there if you want to. Ashley King said in Nashville.
No, I'm okay. I'm all right. I'm okay not going.
But trust and believe. I think it's a cultural thing because, baby, I'm like, I don't chase ghosts. When I see trouble, I run in the opposite direction. All of that. Some other folks are like, oh, I see a ghost. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to find out. No, I don't care. Y'all have it. Ashley said this. I mean, it's crazy. I'm like, look at some of these movies. I'm like, that's why I'm glad Black folks started making these spoofs on horror movies because, I don't mess with the spirit world. See, because I believe we are spirit, okay? So I am not going to mess with you. I don't mess with that. I'm like, y'all, wait a minute. So I'm not afraid of ghosts, but I respect y'all. I respect spirit. I don't believe in ghosts. I believe spirit, okay? In Nashville, Ashley said they were asking Black workers to go clean up hotel rooms and Hispanic and poor white folks too, I'm sure, where they knew they had active COVID and people were dying. And restaurant workers were asked to work while the owners stayed home. Absolutely. And you remember on the, I think it was in Iowa, they were, the managers in a chicken factory were taking bets on who was going to get COVID and die. The workers. You remember that? I mean, so, that's why this to me, this is horrific. And when I think about this 19-year-old boy who only went because it was Father's Day, he didn't feel good about this. His aunt gave an interview and he said, I'm not feeling this. I don't like this. And so I just, I'd like to pass on this. And now look, and his mother has got a broken heart, mother and wife, just the whole family. And I think about all these families and it's heartbreaking. I've got a couple of minutes. I want to give about 30 seconds each of you. Just what should we be looking for? Attorney Fancher. I was about to call you Reverend Fancher. You know how it is.
Well, if you're going to do that, then I'm going to mention God and say that that's ultimately where we need to turn. When we look at these kinds of behaviors, then we know where they come from. They come from the forces of evil. And for those of us who want a better world, we need to redirect our thoughts and our energies and, make sure that the work, that we do, that the world that we pursue is one that's a reflection of what God intended it to be. And he did not want a world where people are greedy, where they're selfish, where they do things which cause harm and death and destruction. He wanted us to look out for each other. And if we don't have a system that allows us to do that, then we darn sure better get one.
It's spiritual wickedness in high places. and we better humble ourselves and pray and turn from these wicked ways. That's when you'll hear from heaven, not just because you're blessed and highly favored, y'all. This is when when you have this kind of corporate malfeasance, and I want you and Robert, Attorney Sanat, to stay with me just for a few minutes on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel and the Santita Jackson and Friends to give closing thoughts. But I want you to come to our convention. We'll be discussing issues just like these. Attorney Sanat will, and we're going to get Attorney Fancher and Attorney Patillo. We need to talk about these issues. This is corporate malfeasance at its highest. And of course, they privatize their wins and they make public their losses. We're the ones who went out looking for these bodies. It was our government that did that. But these are private expeditions. You have to have a lot. No. Do you have a lot of those you can send the American public on since they were paying for it? Like we paid for the vaccines, but now we've got to pay for them while they continue to make profit. I'm telling you, this kind of injustice is allowed to persist because you will not insist on justice for yourself. Think about that, everybody. And then act on it. I love you, everybody. Want to see you at the Rainbow Push International Conference, and I'm going to have my big birthday in the middle of it, so you got to be there. July 15th through the 19th. I'm Santita Jackson. God bless you. I'll see you on Keep Them Alive on Sunday. God bless everybody. Hey. Okay, I want some closing thoughts. Attorney Robert, and then Attorney. You all can just jump on in and say whatever it is that you want to say. I mean, so Attorney Robert Patillo,
Attorney Fancher, you did the. I think Attorney Fancher said it, and when you're talking about the spiritual world, you've really got to think about where's their internal characteristics that would make them want to choose that kind of choice, that level of greed in order to make those choices. But really, on a practical, non-spiritual sense, I really do think that Congress needs to make laws in order to protect these people, because I think you're correct when you brought up the example of who do they really look for to clean up the nasty? Who do they really look for to clean up the bad parts that they made messes of? They look for the people that can't even protect themselves. So I think Congress does need to create some laws that will protect the people that can't protect themselves. Because the whistleblower, David Lockridge, who was from Scotland, came over, told us what needed to be done, or told the company what needed to be done, and informed us that this company is bad, and we probably should have done more as a nation in order to protect these other individuals from being harmed. And we didn't. So I think if we're going to do anything, we need to make sure that as a community of active, loving people, that we get the people that we elect to do the right thing.
And we could have done that, Robert. You're absolutely right, Attorney Sanat. We could have done that. And we could still do that.
Absolutely. You're right. And I think also we have to understand that we have to ask more questions of our government. There's this comedian who said, for people who don't believe in any conspiracy theories, are you just think to yourself the government's out here batting 1,000? That they're not making up anything, that everything's above board? I mean, our history lets us know that that's not true. They've had nothing but conflicting stories the entire time on this. And at the same time that the media has been paying attention to this Ocean Gate drama, the Supreme Court ruled that they would take water rights away from the Navajo Nation, and they starved them out of existence. At the same time, you have hundreds of people dying in a boat capsizing in the Mediterranean. You have drought and famine around the world. Our media is so dedicated to anything sensational, anything stupid, that we can no longer think for ourselves, and they use that as the opioid for the masses. Media has replaced religion as the opioid for the masses, and we have to break free of that if we want to really make the type of systemic changes necessary. I feel bad for all the people who died in the submarine. I don't want to be callous towards that. It's terrible for any walk of life.
Absolutely.
But I also want to know the whole story about what exactly happened.
Why is that important?
Well, because I think anytime that there's a very clear government cover-up taking place, we need to know exactly what happened. I'll give you an example. Back during the Cold War, the U.S. accidentally dropped the atomic bomb on North Carolina. They didn't tell anybody. They also dropped an atomic bomb off the coast of Spain that they never found. It's still down there. There are unknown numbers of nuclear submarines just sunk to the bottom of the ocean around the globe, not just from the U.S., but from Russia. You have weapons testing that exists. My wife brought up the point that, you had this happen this week, then, was it last week, you had the giant smoke cloud that ostensibly came from the Canadian wildfires that just disappeared after a couple of days. Wildfires are still going on. You had the F-16, what they said, once you go just check on a plane outside of D.C., and then the plane mysteriously evaporated in the air and then crashed. But they claimed it wasn't shot down. You had an FBI agent or FBI spy who was the worst leaker in the history of the U.S. government mysteriously die in prison. All these things just happen, and we're also just look at it and say, interesting. I'm sure none of that hasn't been doing anything, and then just move on for our lives. And if you look any deeper into it, as you said, they call you a conspiracy theorist. But I think many of us just simply want to know what's really going on the front end so we can prepare ourselves for whatever happens on the back end instead of just having to react when things hit the fan.
Well, remember, conspiracy theory, the term was created by the CIA to undercut whistleblowers, dissenters. I mean, that's why I don't use the term because it's insulting to me. I mean, I know the people who were with Dr. King when he was killed. They all believed that the government was involved. He said the harassment that we were dealing with, you cannot believe. And the fact that they killed Dr. King, Attorney Sanat, Attorney Fancher, Attorney Patillo, 1 year to the day, to the minute that he stepped into the lectern at Riverside Church and came out against the Vietnam War. You can't make that up. That's not James Earl Ray, a petty thief who you catch in London with a pocket full of cash. Are you for real? When you have the head of the political police who tried to make Dr. King kill himself, who sent tapes of him in extramarital activities to his wife to destroy his family because they knew how attached he loved his wife and he loved his family. And this man would destroy that while he's twisting around, leading a lifestyle that he knew that most Americans would disapprove of. Now, I'm thinking, people, I live and let live. That's your business. But what a hypocrite. Are you serious right now?
I think it's very interesting that the name of the company was called Ocean Gate, and we had a very, very life-changing experience in Watergate. I think maybe there might be some more to this company than obviously we're aware of. It might have been controlled by some other people. Well, I think we'll all find out about all of these things. I mean, as you mentioned yesterday with the Supreme Court being more into what we call
they're more business friendly than any group at all ever. Since they started measuring these things, they're the most corporatist court in our history. And they are
but it is
answerable to
interesting.
no one.
Ocean Gate, Watergate, something big is coming out of Ocean Gate. We don't know yet, but something big is coming.
Well, if they choose to let us know. But I tell you what, the only reason these people are allowed to get away with this mischief is because we don't demand, we don't ask. And when we ask, when we demand, when we march, when we vote, when we demand that our votes count and we demand that you vote them accurately, because I don't trust the computers counting my vote. No, I believe in a paper ballot. Oh, it'll take too long. No, it's not going to take too long. The arc of
They've been doing it for years.
The arc of justice is long. I'm with justice. I don't believe in you don't have microwave justice. God doesn't work that way. And let your microwave meat sit a minute. You're gonna have a rock. It's not even real, y'all. This is crazy. And the more stories I read about this Ocean Gate, as you correctly point out, Attorney Sanat, that the Titan then went down looking for the Titanic. The more I look at this, the more I am like, wait, what is going on here? And I knew because
Captain Rush being married to the great-great-granddaughter of, I believe it was the business owners that perished. I think they featured them in the Titanic movie.
Come on.
You know which one I'm talking about?
Come
I can't remember the name.
No, I hear you. I mean, come on. And he can say, I mean, in interviews that he said over and over again, oh yeah, I've broken some rules. And you all excited about that. When Dr. King breaks rules, he's a communist.
Mm-hmm.
He's a criminal. When Reverend breaks rules, oh no, they're arrogant. Hubris. How dare you? Why run, Jesse, run? Why are you running? How dare you? But these people, they do things, Attorney Fancher and Attorney Patillo, that get people killed. And they're honored. Something about this world is real off, y'all. Something is really off. Because we honor killers and we bury people who really promote life. We bury them alive. Awful. Whew, does anyone else have anything they want to say? Because the more I read about this, the more, I mean, and all these people are now coming out and they're saying, well, it's not they're now coming out, but they're being sought out. And they're like, no, I didn't feel good about this. And now we can't find the lawsuit. We can't find, what do you think about that? You can't find the paperwork on the lawsuit that charged all of that outlined all of these structural flaws. What do you think about that? Attorney Sinat, Attorney Patillo, Attorney Fancher? Anyone have any thoughts? I'm not a lawyer. Hello?
The paperwork exists. I mean, if it's submitted to the United States government, particularly prior to the pandemic. But I do agree. I'm not going to insult you by using the word conspiracy theory. But what I would like to say is that Attorney Robert Patillo brought up some very good points, and it really made me think. 1 minute we had a whole big fog, and now there's not, but the fire's still going. There's tons of Haitians that are trying to get into the United States. 1 minute they're not able to get in, then all of a sudden a couple of laws change, and some of them are given opportunities, others are not, but we still have insecurity in the country. United States doesn't want to go there. Canada doesn't want to go there. What's going on in Haiti that they don't want to now participate? So I think that the United States government really needs to think about, where are we really going when we're thinking about upholding moral and integrity in our community? How are we going to continue to do these things and put a spotlight on 5? I don't think they're stupid. I do think that they were thrill seekers. But 5 people that were able to be part of the 1% that invested in these types of adventures. I mean, when you go to Peru, there's a hotel that's on the side of a mountain. People pay for that. I don't know why, but that's what they do. So what are we going to do as a community of voters? Because that's really all we have right now is just the voice, the ability to vote for people or against people. What are we going to do in order to make sure that we don't keep allowing these thrill seekers to get their way?
Well, and to hide what happens here. I mean, I don't know what they're looking for. I know it's something. Okay, and I got that. I'm not mad at you. But the thing is, I want to know, I think that we as Americans, if we believe in having a free society, we need to know. And I need to know when there is risk. I cannot ask questions about certain medicines. That for me is a problem. I got a problem with that. I do. And you don't need to call me a conspiracy theorist as they have done to Robert Kennedy. He's not an anti-vaxxer. He is anti-unsafe medicines. He's been suing for that his whole life in law. And I can't ask a question about it.
Big Pharma made a lot of money off the United States government with this COVID vaccine.
Girl, wait. Girl, wait. You can't mention that. That'll get me yanked from the radio.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No. I'm good. No. Let them yank. Let them yank. Because it's just going to prove the point. Girl, look. These people have tried to do everything, and they have done everything they could to my family. You cannot frighten me anymore. I am a very grown woman. The only big event that I have left is to die. I'm good. And I'm not trying to do it anytime soon. I'm just simply saying to you, at some point. I was
going to say, if your birthday's right around the corner, let's not talk that right now.
No, honey. I will. Whatever God's will is for me, I'm with it. Okay? Mm-hmm. I mean, honest to God, I am. I'm good. I am so trust and believe. I am so good. Whatever God decides for me. You see, I don't give God advice. I want to be open to God's instruction. And baby, I think you need to do it this way. Just follow me. One of my girlfriends calls me and she's like, now what I need you to do is pray that. I said, no, that. No, I don't do that. I don't give God advice. I give God glory. And I try to give God my attention and my intention. How about that?
Mm-hmm.
And I know if we want to have a free society, we're going to have to get to work. It requires that each one of us get involved. You cannot be on the sidelines and have a democracy. You can be on the sidelines and have any other form of, not a government, but you can have rulers. Now, if that's what you want, okay, but I didn't sign up for that. Didn't sign up for it. Not feeling that. So as these stories come out, and they even had Anderson Cooper up early this morning. Baby, he was not on prime time. He was on at 5 o'clock in the morning talking about this. I said, now something's going on because this Anderson he is CNN. So, and he talked to James Cameron. Oh, well, wait a minute, what's going on? I just think we need to know.
The scandal is going to be uncovered. I'm with Attorney Patillo on this, and I'm with Attorney Fancher. There's got to be somebody that's driving this, and so, that's how I'm feeling now.
Okay, well, I'm here for all of it. Does anyone have anything else they want to say? Oh, I can't believe I'm getting radio silence from all the lawyers, but that's all right.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you for having me. I appreciate being on the air, and I appreciate you always thinking of me.
Girl, I think about you all the time. You're just busy.
Yes, I am. In fact, June 28th, we're having a virtual forum in order to try to educate people on humanitarian parole. So you're correct. I'm very, very busy.
I want you to come back next week and talk about that.
Oh, okay, no problem.
No, seriously.
That's how I end up busy. It's because I keep doing this.
No. But I mean, the 28th is what day of the week?
Thursday.
Okay, so like Monday, Tuesday, you need to do that, right?
Am I coming right?
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you need to come on and talk about it. So send me some of the bright lines of that, and you come on and we'll do that. Because I do think we need to have a conversation. I think that Attorney Fancher and Attorney Patillo are absolutely right. We need to have a conversation also about just about about how we're going to do what we're going to do. I mean, I think we need to have a diasporic conversation. The diaspora absolutely needs to. We need to begin it here because we are the diaspora. We're over here. Anytime you see someone with a hint of black anything, we were brought over here on the transatlantic slave trade. And God is in this, y'all, because if you look at the path of the hurricanes that come from where we come from, they follow the path of the transatlantic slave trade. You cannot tell me that's a coincidence. I believe in coincidences. And God is trying to tell us something and get our attention, all of us. I don't care what your color is. And we need to pay attention. Wake up and pay attention. Wake up and pay attention. Yes?
Santita, I'm actually, as we're talking, I've been in a Twitter beef for a couple of days with the ADOS community.
Not you.
Those are the people. Those are the people who call themselves the. Yeah, the American descendants of slavery. Yeah, I've tried to explain to them that they've been fooled by COINTELPRO, and they can't quite get it. And so, to your point about black folks coming together, I think as long as you have these groups that are financed by white supremacists, they're financed by outside groups that just sow this dissension. They want black Americans fighting against black Caribbeans fighting against black Africans fighting against members of the diaspora who are in South America and Central America. They're separated. They want to separate us by Christianity versus traditional religion versus voodoo versus Islam. They want to separate us along linguistic barriers. I speak Italian. I speak French because that's who colonized me. I speak Spanish. That's who colonized me. Until we're able to break through all of that and come together as one group of the decolonized world, that's when we'll get true liberation. But as long as they're able to keep us separated and keep us fighting against each other, then they can continue spending $1 million to get on the little submarine with an Xbox controller to go underwater because they get to collect all the residuals of us fighting each other.
Well, look, I'm with you. And as long as many of us come over here and we don't know the history of Black people in the United States of America, and we listen to the lies, and you feel that we are inferior. I mean, it's a vicious cycle, and they keep us at each other's throats so that we will not come together and make this country and make this world what it's supposed to be. It's all a game, and you need to stop falling for it. I mean, because I saw Newt Gingrich do it 30 years ago in praise of the Caribbean and African immigrants. You're different than the people, not your brothers and sisters and Black Americans, because they are slothful, they are lazy, they are this. No, and no one believes Black folks in America till they get shot. Enough of that already. Mm-hmm. We're all over here on the same imperial project. You need to stop getting angry with the migrants who are actually Americans. They are Spanish-speaking indigenous people. They speak Spanish because they were conquered by the Spanish. The only reason we don't speak Spanish is because the British came in and beat them. That's it. Stop it.
And of course, the Haitian migrants that are here, they not only speak Spanish because they can learn, but they also speak French and Haitian Creole. And I think that's devastating. I think Attorney Patillo brought up a very good point. When are we going to start focusing on the true divisiveness of what's really going on? When they say Black, people only think Black American. But if you listen to the British, I mean, Damson Idris, he's British, right? We also have the person that plays the All-American star. He's from Britain. We have Rihanna, Barbados. We have Busta Rhymes, Jamaica. We've got, all of these people from all over the place. But they want to say only Black Americans are Black, and they don't want to recognize the rest of the world of all the different people that they place throughout the world as Black. Come on.
But I think that's a small segment of even that community. I think that what has happened with Black people, and my mother's father went back to the Caribbean and never came back. This is because you're even close to home. This is my family too. And my mother said, I never played that game because I saw the game they were playing on us, because no one really acknowledged the role of how Rosa Parks and Dr. King freed all the Black folks in the diaspora. And Nkrumah learned from Dr. King. Just so we have to stop playing this game, because we continue to get played. And when I talk to my African brothers and sisters, when I talk to many of my Caribbean brothers and sisters, they don't know our history in the United States, and we don't either, by the way. Mm-hmm. And we need to know what we've done here. All we did in the United States was fight the biggest, baddest empire that the world has ever known, and we won. We won. And we keep winning every day. And you need to acknowledge that. And when we acknowledge that, then you need to understand what happened with the French and why the French are still making the Haitians pay. They're making them pay because they beat a Western power. No, you got to pay for that.
Every time you go up on the Eiffel Tower, think of Haiti.
Well, honey, every time you come to the United States of America, every time you go to Louisiana, come on.
Every time you go to Louisiana, right?
No, I mean, I get it. No, I mean, it's all of it. But we are in the African American
History Museum for a reason. A lot of people don't know why Toussaint Louverture is there. But your brother, now Congressman Jonathan Jackson, also mentioned it in celebration. I think he said it on the 6th. He was recognizing that June is Caribbean Heritage Month. And so he was recognizing the fact all of our contributions, Earl Graves, right, who was the CEO and founder of Black Enterprise Enterprise Magazine. I was looking for the word magazine. Sorry about that. But there's so many contributions. Colin Powell. I mean, I can go into politics. I can go into entertainment. I can go into all the different things in which we as a community of Black people have contributed to the development and to the expansion of our own community's power. But it's unfortunate that a lot of people don't recognize that. But I do want to say thank you, Congressman Jonathan Jackson, for recognizing us this month, and specifically for recognizing the fact that there have been contributions from all over.
Well, he didn't recognize the Caribbean American community or the Caribbean community to separate you out, but to bring us together. Because the fact is, I'm furthering your point. for the audience.
Oh, okay.
No, this is to bring us together. Because the fact is, we know we all come from many, many different places. But what has not been acknowledged and what has been looked, and people look down upon us. Look, you mean Black Americans. And I would, because I've talked to many of my African brothers and sisters from the Caribbean. I get it. You come in, you're like, oh, this opportunity. I get it. I hear it. I'm saying we've got to talk about that conversation too. But at the end of the day, if we don't come together, we are sunk. Bottom line. Because we are one.
Bottom line.
We are one. The migrants are being brought here on the same corporate policy that got us here. These people still want labor, something for nothing. They want everything for nothing. That's why they're being brought here. We wreak havoc in their countries, and then what do? We have them come here and we work them to death for nothing. And then we think about maybe giving them citizenship, because you do know after the Civil War, Black people in America were not citizens yet. That we had to amend the Constitution for that to happen. So,
not only that, but Florida right now is suffering because of Ron DeSantis' laws. Because a lot of those migrant workers are no longer interested in working the farms. I mean, some of these white farmers have 30 farms that they need to have farms, but there are no more workers to work it.
But that's why what they need to do is join us in the struggle, because that's why you're here. You're not here for opportunity. You're here to be used. So if you don't understand the program, then you've missed the point. And that's my point. You need to understand why you're here. You need to understand why you get promoted. There's a reason that they over-index in promoting Black people in the Ivy League, particularly at Harvard. They over-index the admission of Black children who have white parents, particularly white mothers, and Blacks from the Caribbean and Africa. Because they don't want to hear the Black American experience. That's why we had a Black president who was half African. Because they don't want that song sung. That's part of the game too. And we need to respond to that. And I don't have a problem with him being half African. I ain't got a problem with Kamala. I mean, I've known her 40 plus years. I ain't got a problem with that. No. I have a problem with the game that white people are playing by pulling people in and going past the Black American experience, because Anastasia, we still don't want to talk about slavery. And that's a problem for me. See, I was raised by my great-grandmother who could not even sign an X. She almost didn't go vote for her grandson, Anastasia. We had the press waiting outside the house in Greenville, South Carolina. And we were like, she was sitting there with her purse and she was furious. I said, Mama Tibby, come. I'm not going. I'm sitting here. I'm going to wait for y'all to come back. We were like, Mama Tibby, you got to vote today. And my father was like, oh my gosh, you mean to tell me he said, and he called her Frog. She had a lot of moles on her face. He said, Frog. And then he said, Mama, because my great-grandmother raised him. He said, he said, I'm running for president. You do understand that, Mama Tibby. And she looked at him, and my father looked at me, and I said, oh, it's because she can't. I mouthed him. I said, it's because she can't write, and she can't read. And his eyes just flooded with tears. Oh, no, that's our story. See, we don't want to tell that. Right. We don't want to tell that part of the story. You want to talk about the people who come here and they achieve and they do it because they're not connected to that. There was no birth certificate for my great-grandmother when we buried her in 1997. We had to speculate on her age. We had to speculate on her birthday because she was a Black child born who was sickly, and they didn't even think about getting a birth certificate for her because she didn't count. Marion Barry and James Bevel, one of our greatest freedom fighters, they came from the same plantation in Mississippi. We don't want to tell that story. That's a problem for me. And you got to tell them all. And when you come to the United States, you need to acknowledge all of these stories, because it's these people, it's these freedom fighters that open the door for everybody to come here. For Rihanna to come here. For Colin Powell to come
I'm blaming Robert Patillo for the promotion today.
No. I know. I get bent because my mother's father told her when she was about 4 or 5, I'm going back. I'm leaving the United States. I'm out of here. I'm going back to where I come from because I will not be an N-word. He told her that. My mother never forgot that, and she never saw him again.
That's what W.E. Du Bois did.
Yeah, well, no, we pushed him out of the United States. He was harassed out of here. Like we almost did that to Paul Robeson. No, they did that to Stokely Carmichael, Kwame Ture. That's what we do. That's how we get down here. So no, all of that, Because see, I'm Jamestown. I'm not the Statue of Liberty. Because I have some black friends who relate to the Statue of Liberty. I'm like, that's great if you relate to it as a gift from the French for ending slavery. But if that's your point of entry to the United States, you already messed up. We're from Charleston.
It was actually supposed to be a Haitian. It was actually supposed to be a woman of African descent.
Absolutely.
I believe.
Oh no, they had to anglicize her.
I heard in that.
If they were going to put her in that harbor, they will anglicize her because that's how we get down. Okay. So I'm just saying, no, let's acknowledge why you are here, how you got here, because I think that is part of the pain of African Americans that no one wants to acknowledge what we have been through. And that is a horrible, horrible thing. And then we get blinded to the contributions of Haitians. Haitians blend almost seamlessly into the Black American experience because y'all get it. Seamlessly. Others not so seamlessly. Others seamlessly. Once you get it, you blend. You go, oh, okay, I got it. I understand what this is about. I remember meeting Amadou Diallo's mother in New York. Oh, her son hadn't been gone a couple of months, and she was shell-shocked, obviously. But she couldn't believe what happened to her son. And I said, bless your heart. She said, in America, I can't believe it's happening. I'm like, in America, only in America. Made in America. That's why this happened to him here. But the fact that you came here and he came to the United States and didn't know, that's deadly.
Right.
You know, so there's a big conversation that we got to have. Big conversation that we got to have, and a coming together.
I'm ready for it.
They call it Harambe, coming together. That dates you. Oh yeah, we gotta come together.
Building the bridge. Let's build a bridge.
Honey, build the bridge and build the
bridge
building.
builder.
Honey, build the bridge and build the building. Come on. Let's do this. Because the only reason we're over here in this American project, North, South, and Central in the Caribbean, is because we came here to work.
Yeah, Attorney Sancher, Attorney Patillo, I hope to see you all at the conference.
Absolutely. But you and Attorney Patillo have a conversation to work out. So because we need to have a discussion at the conference. That needs to be a seminar. So we're going to do that.
Okay.
And we're going to get Attorney Fancher in for it because I think it would be great. There's a whole lot to talk about. So, but I love you, girl.
All right. Talk to you later.
Oh,
Thank you again for having me.
Oh, girl, please don't thank me. Just make room for us. How about that?
All the time.
Okay.
Have a great day.
Thank you. Love you. And I love you all. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. I will see you on Sunday on Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. And what a wonderful day. It's always a joy being with you. So now let me go put the rest of my clothes in mothballs. How about that? Yeah, I got to do that. It's so exciting. I love you. Bye-bye.